Chapter 22. In Novice Village, 10021. Currently, a large majority of the players were gathered here. The large number of players gathered here almost filled up the small village. Motherf asterisk Kerr. Is there something wrong with these bandits' brains? If this goes on, our players from Novice Village 10021 will be at the bottom of the other novice villages. In a temporary meeting room, Chow Hong roared in exasperation. Right now, he was really furious. In less than 3 days, he had been killed by the bandits 7 or 8 times. His cultivation progress was forever stuck at Martial Realm Stage 0. Chow Hong could not figure out where the problem was. Those bandits were like vengeful spirits. As soon as he stepped out of the novice village, he would be surrounded and killed. He, who was at Martial Realm Stage 0, would not even be a match for a single bandit. The other players present also had ugly expressions on their faces. Right now, the players in Novice Village 10021 are all restricted to within 2 miles of the Novice Village. With so many of us in such a small area, there simply isn't enough resources to share. Lu Shoujia said in a deep voice. There was a time interval between the spawning of monsters. There were thousands of players in Novice Village 10021. With such a small area and limited resources, there wasn't even enough for one person to share one monster. Moreover, at this point, Lu Shoujia changed the topic. I don't know if you've noticed, but these days, some of the bandits seem to have become stronger. Does this mean that when these NPCs kill us players, they can also level up? When these words were said, the other players' expressions changed. If Lu Shoujia hadn't said it, they might not have noticed this. The bandits were already difficult enough to deal with. Just over 100 bandits were enough to make it difficult for them to move. If the bandits could really kill players to level up, then if this continued, they would be trapped in the novice village forever. A burly player said in a deep voice, even if those bandits can level up, what can we do? Everyone here knows the strength of the Liangshan Stronghold Master. Our charge of over 1,000 players was annihilated by a single person. If we don't get rid of Mount Liang's chieftain, then even if we get rid of the other bandits, we still won't be able to escape from this crisis. With the players' fearless nature, they naturally wouldn't be willing to be surrounded and killed. As such, under the leadership of some of the more prestigious players, there were over 1,000 players working together in an attempt to break through the encirclement of the Cold Mountain Stronghold's bandits. Unfortunately, before they could truly show their prowess, they encountered Master Qin Shujian. As for the result, it went without saying. That encirclement was what truly broke the morale of the players. Given our current situation, there are only 2 ways to solve the problem of bandits. One of them said. Hearing this, the other people's gazes also landed on the other party. Many people's gazes became serious. There was no other reason. Because the person in front of me is called Wang Renbin. In the real world, he was a direct descendant of the Wang family in the capital. As for the Wang family, it was a famous aristocratic family in the real world. Not only were their businesses spread all over the country, they even had great power in the government. This time, the opening of the game world attracted the attention of various forces. The Wang clan was one of them. As such, when Wang Renbin opened his mouth, the others remained silent. In terms of status, there weren't many people here who could compare with Wang Renbin. Seeing that the crowd had quieted down, Wang Renbin's handsome face revealed a devilish smile. Although the bandits surrounded and killed us players, they didn't force us into a dead end. Although the resources of the monsters within 2 miles are evenly distributed to all the players, it's only a drop in the bucket. However, if these resources are concentrated on a few players, I believe that we can quickly nurture a few high-level players. The reason why the bandits are so powerful is because of the Cold Mountain Stronghold's master. As long as we can nurture players who can contend with the Cold Mountain Stronghold's master, the problem of bandits will naturally be solved. As soon as these words were spoken, many people's expressions changed. They had to admit that Wang Renbin's method was indeed a solution. After all, when it came to leveling up and killing monsters, they didn't think that NPCs could be faster than players. However, young Master Wang's plan is quite good. Are you going to say that all the players we nurture will be from the Wang family? A flirtatious voice sounded, faintly containing a trace of ridicule. Wang Renbin looked in the direction of the voice and saw a graceful female player. Her skin was as white as snow, and her jet-black hair hung down her shoulders. Her bright and beautiful eyes were as moving as pearls, and her cherry-red lips were slightly curved into a soul-stirring smile. Xiaoming, you've misunderstood me. Since we're going to nurture a few players, we'll naturally choose them based on their potential. Wang Renbin wasn't angry at all, and instead smiled as he spoke. Young Master Wang, you should call me by my full name. Not everyone can call me Xiaoming. Zhao Xiaoming didn't seem to appreciate it. Others feared the Wang family, but she didn't need to. The Wang family was powerful, but her Zhao family wouldn't be much weaker. Also, don't forget, if we nurture a few players, we'll lag behind the other players. Even if we solve the problem of the bandits, we'll still be far behind the other players in the novice village. In the early stages of the game, if we lag behind, we'll lag behind. Young Master Wang, don't tell me you're really here to sightsee. Hearing this, Wang Renbin's smile disappeared. If that's the case, then there's only one other method left. Speaking of this, his expression became solemn. Someone in my Wang family has obtained a teleportation talisman somewhere else. As long as we know the coordinates, we can teleport people. As far as I know, apart from us, there are quite a few players in the novice village who have reached the second stage of the martial arts realm. The highest level player has even reached the fourth stage of the martial arts realm. If we can teleport these players over, then the bandits won't be a problem anymore. But Wang Renbin paused, then said, this teleportation talisman is a one-time consumable item. After the teleportation time expires, all the players who participated in the teleportation will be forcefully teleported back. My Wang clan also expended a huge amount of manpower and resources to obtain this treasure. The bandits aren't my problem alone, so if you want to solve this problem, there's no reason for my Wang family to bear this loss alone. As soon as he said this, even Zhao Xiaoming's expression changed. She didn't expect the Wang family to be able to obtain such a treasure in the early stages of the game. The other players also had different expressions on their faces. Wang Renbin's words were very clear. He wanted all of them to share the cost of the teleportation talisman. One of the players suddenly asked, then according to young Master Wang, what price do we have to pay? I know that the people sitting here are basically the leaders or representatives of the player factions in the novice village, 10021. Wang Renbin looked around, then finally extended a finger and said, 1 million. Among the factions that you're from, each faction will give 1 million to my Wang family. Then this matter will be left to my Wang family to solve. Chapter 23. 1 million. There were at least 20 to 30 people here. This meant that the Wang family would take away 20 to 30 million in one go. Although the people here didn't lack money, none of them were fools to take out 1 million so easily. Therefore, when Wang Renbin finished speaking, the scene fell into silence. No one objected, but no one agreed either. Zhao Xiaoming said indifferently, 20 to 30 million for a teleportation talisman. Young Master Wang really knows how to do business. It's worth it. In order to get this teleportation talisman, the Wang family has used tens of thousands of players, not to mention other costs. I think it's worth this price. Wang Renbin smiled faintly. 1 million shouldn't be too much for you. Everyone knows very well what your purpose in entering the game is. If you waste your time here for a mere 1 million, you'll lose more than 1 million over time. Speaking of this, he looked at Zhao Xiaoming. With the Zhao family's wealth, 1 million is just a drop in the ocean. Xiaoming, if you can't afford it, I'll just lend it to you. These words made Zhao Xiaoming's expression change uncertainly. Indeed, not to mention the Zhao family, even to herself, 1 million was not considered a large sum of money. She simply didn't want Wang Renbin to earn this money. However, just as he said, 1 million wasn't a big problem. If the bandits continued for 2 more days, the loss to her would be more than 1 million. It wasn't just Zhao Xiaoming. Most of the people here had similar thoughts. After all, they were able to sit here and recruit other players in such a short time and establish a force. They all had powerful backgrounds. Therefore, in the end, they agreed to the other party's conditions. There was no other way. The situation was stronger than the person. Since the Wang family had such a trump card in their hands, it was decided that the other party had sovereignty. Master, now that most of the players have holed up, should we take the next step? Zhang Tiniu looked at Qin Shujian and asked in a deep voice. Although he was still the leader of the Cold Mountain Gang, he was still an expert in the third stage of the basic realm. However, even though his cultivation level had increased, when he stood before Qin Shujian, he felt an even greater pressure than before. Therefore, Zhang Tinia's reverence for Qin Shujian became even stronger. Hearing this, Qin Shujian rubbed his chin lightly and did not immediately speak. In the span of 3 to 4 days, they had killed a large number of players. Most of the bandits in the Cold Mountain stronghold had advanced to the second stage of the basic realm. However, the number of dead bandits wasn't small either. As time passed, the first batch of dead bandits respawned. However, what shocked Qin Shujian was that among the bandits that spawned, a small number of bandits that should have reached the second stage of the martial realm had fallen to the first stage of the martial realm. Those bandits at the first stage of the basic martial realm were still at the first stage of the basic martial realm. This unforeseen event also made Qin Shujian understand one thing, and that was that although the bandits could respawn after being killed by players, their level would drop by 1. As for why the bandits at the first stage of the basic realm did not change, according to his estimation, this should be the lowest level that the bandits could fall to. No matter how low it wouldn't fall. In other words, the bandits who had died at the second stage of the basic realm had all returned to their original levels. The Cold Mountain stronghold currently has 133 people. In the past few days, more than 100 bandits have died at the hands of players. Only 20 or so people are still alive. Among these 20 people, including Zhang Tiniu, 6 of them have reached the third stage of the basic realm. The others are all hovering around the second stage of the basic realm. As for the bandits who died once, most of them have returned to their original levels. This should be about the same. After silently calculating the gains and losses, Qin Shujian had a rough idea of the situation. In just a few days, the Cold Mountain stronghold had gained so many experts. Its strength had already multiplied several times over its original foundation. However, Qin Shujian looked at Zhang Tiniu and frowned. In the past few days, you should have killed quite a few mutants. Why haven't you advanced to the fourth stage of the basic realm? Stronghold Master, you also know that when we kill mutants to advance, we can only kill mutants who are 3 stages lower than us. Right now, none of those mutants are at the first stage of the basic realm. How could they advance to the fourth stage of the basic realm? I almost forgot. Qin Shujian was startled for a moment before his expression returned to normal. You can only advance by killing players who are at least 3 stages lower than you. He didn't know about this at all. Originally, Qin Shujian was curious as to why Zhang Tiniu and the others at the third stage of the basic realm had killed quite a few players, but none of them had advanced to the fourth stage of the basic realm. At first, he thought that it was because the experience gap was too large. But now, it seemed that there was no experience to be gained. However, Qin Shujian had never heard of Zhang Tiniu's words before. But looking at Zhang Tiniu's matter-of-fact expression, he couldn't help but guess. Zhang Tiniu was able to obtain the source of life, and from the current situation, there was no realm restriction. It was completely different from other bandits who killed players to advance. He himself was a bug-like existence. Then, Qin Shujian had another thought. The information that Zhang Tiniu knew, the other bandit NPCs should also know. After all, there was no difference between the two. This meant that even though he was also an NPC, he was still fundamentally different from ordinary NPCs. Other NPCs could only kill players to advance, and they could only obtain experience from players who were at least 3 stages lower than them. They couldn't do anything beyond this range. But Zhang Tiniu himself didn't have this restriction at all. Not only did he obtain the source of life when he killed players, he also obtained the source of life when he killed NPCs. There was also no level restriction. Moreover, Zhang Tiniu and the others seemed to naturally know some things that he himself didn't know. Regarding this, Qin Shujian was once again very worried about whether or not he would be able to respawn if he was killed. It seems that I might not be able to respawn like other NPCs. Then, he looked at Zhang Tiniu and said, "Pass down my orders. All brothers will attack Novice Village 10021 with all their strength tomorrow. Before that, the other brothers will surround the Novice Village. During this period of time, don't let any player escape. But first, don't kill too many Inhumans and scare them away. Our brothers will try not to suffer any losses. Tomorrow, another batch of bandits would respawn. This way, they would have more strength and protection to attack the novice village. Chapter 24. Name: Qin Shujin Identity. Cold Mountain Stronghold Master Affiliation. Cold Mountain Stronghold Realm. 7th stage of the basic realm. Cold Mountain Stronghold's territory. Realm +1. Cultivation techniques. Body tempering scripture 6th layer. Plus. Power flowing at will. Qi and blood flourishing. Mortal middle grade. Black tiger saber technique. Greater heights. Mortal middle grade. Eternal spring art. Plus. Eternal vitality. Mortal low grade. 7-leaf flower piercing palm. Plus. Greater heights. Mortal low grade. Life source. 503 equipment. Level 9 tiger head saber. Level 9 tiger skin set. Tiger skin coat. Tiger skin trousers. Tiger skin belt. Tiger skin thick boots. These were Qin Shujin's current stats. In just a few days, countless players had died in the hands of the bandits, causing his life source to increase at every moment. That unknown cultivation technique had been renamed Body Tempering Scripture. Therefore, he had increased the Eternal Spring Art's 5th layer to the Perfection stage, gaining the additional effect of Eternal Vitality. However, his 7-leaf piercing flower palm was only a symbolic upgrade to the next level. With the Black Tiger Saber technique as an offensive technique, this palm technique was not very useful. However, Qin Shujin had increased the 5-element 8 trigram steps to the Greater Height stage. Although there was no change in his realm, it was still the same. Only Qin Shujin himself knew how much his strength had increased by combining the Body Tempering Scripture's 6th layer with the Eternal Spring Art's Perfection stage. Now, Qin Shujin looked at the 500+ life source on his status panel, as well as the plus sign behind all the martial arts. Without any hesitation, he directly chose the 6th layer of the Body Tempering Scripture. In an instant, his 500+ life source decreased by 300 points. The words Body Tempering Scripture's 6th layer twisted and became Body Tempering Scripture's 7th layer. Boom! At this moment, Qin Shujin suddenly felt as if there was a ball of fire burning in his body. His skin felt like it was being torn apart. His originally normal skin was now rapidly withering, falling off inch by inch like fallen leaves. Behind the falling dead skin was his normal skin color. This cycle continued for 9 times before the change finally stopped. Now, when he looked at Qin Shujin again, his skin seemed to be made of bronze and indestructible. 7th stage of the basic realm, copper skin. Qin Shujin's eyes lit up. When he looked at his status panel, his realm had changed to the 8th stage of the basic realm. As for the Body Tempering Scripture, it had been upgraded from the 6th tier to the 7th tier, and there was an additional copper skin attribute behind it. Copper skin? Qin Shujin pinched the skin on his arm with 2 fingers. Immediately, he felt a soft and tough feeling, as if he had touched some kind of metallic texture. Seeing this, he took out the tiger-headed saber and gently cut his arm. The blade slashed across, and there was a cold sensation. When he took a closer look, there were no changes to his skin. Seeing this, Qin Shujin immediately made another stroke. What was different from before was that this time, he used his normal strength. The blade slashed across, leaving a shallow white mark. When he used 30% of his strength, there was a slight pain in his arm. Qin Shujin immediately stopped. When he looked at his arm again, there was a faint dark red color. Hiss! What a powerful defense! Qin Shujin couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He now knew how powerful the copper skin ability of the 7th tier of the Body Tempering Scripture was. It must be known that the tiger-headed saber was a 9th grade refined weapon. It was much sharper than ordinary sabers and swords. At least until now, Qin Shujin hadn't met anything that the tiger-headed saber couldn't cut. In addition, he was now in the 8th stage of the basic realm and had a strength of several thousand pounds. Even if he only used 30% of his strength, it was enough to easily suppress an expert of the 5th stage of the basic realm. With such strength, coupled with the 9th grade tiger-headed saber, he could only break through the copper skin defense. This was equal to, even if he stood there motionless, an expert of the 5th stage of the basic realm without a 9th grade weapon would have no chance of breaking through his defense. Only those above the 6th stage of the basic realm could pose a threat to him. Invincible under the sixth stage of the basic realm. Such a phrase appeared in Qin Shujian's mind. This wasn't invincibility in a certain sense, but true invincibility. Even if he stood there and let others hack at him, they might not be able to break through his defense. Afterwards, he looked at the remaining 200-plus points of life force. Qin Shujian looked at the plus sign behind the eternal spring art. Since it would be a waste to keep it, he directly deduced the complete eternal spring art to another level. Unknown sixth tier of the cultivation technique. Special effect, life extension. His body slightly trembled as a warm current surged through his body. Qin Shujian felt that his body seemed to be a bit younger. He, who was originally in his peak state, seemed to be glowing with surging vitality. There weren't any changes. He still deduced the unknown cultivation technique to the sixth tier and directly used the name of the eternal spring art. Looking at the words, life extension, Qin Shujian thought to himself, life extension? It seems that this eternal spring art is more of a cultivation technique for maintaining one's health. I don't know if I can truly achieve eternal youth after deducing it. However, these were all things for later. After deducing the eternal spring art to the sixth tier and cultivating the body-tempering scripture to the seventh tier, Qin Shujian felt that his strength had increased to a certain extent. Regarding this, Qin Shujian was quite satisfied. Tomorrow, he would make a move on Novice Village 10021. Whether or not there was a powerful expert hidden within was still an unknown factor. Increasing his strength by a bit meant increasing his chances of victory by a bit. However, from the first time he fought with those 3 NPCs, there was a high probability that there was an expert in Novice Village 10021 that surpassed the 5th tier of the martial arts realm. However, his actual realm was already the 7th tier of the martial arts realm. With the support of his faction, he had risen to the 8th tier of the martial arts realm, even if it was only a fake 8th tier. However, with the eternal spring art, Qin Shujian was confident that he wouldn't be much weaker than someone of the 8th tier of the martial arts realm. He also didn't believe that a novice village could hide an even more powerful expert. If there really was, then he could only admit defeat. The next day, in the cold mountain stronghold, Qin Shujian stood there. Behind him were 73 strong bandits, excluding the old, the young, and the bandits that hadn't respawned yet. In front of him was the full strength of Cold Mountain Stronghold. Among the 73 bandits, there was 1 person of the 4th tier of the martial arts realm, 6 of the 3rd tier of the martial arts realm, 17 of the 2nd tier of the martial arts realm, and the rest of the bandits were of the 1st tier of the martial arts realm. The scene was silent. No one spoke. Only the almost inaudible sound of breathing could be heard. Looking at the rising sun in the distance, the first ray of light sprinkled over Cold Mountain. Qin Shujian waved his hand and said with a calm expression, "Let's go." After saying that, Qin Shujian took the first step forward. Behind him, Zheng Feng, Zhang Tiniu, and the rest of the group immediately followed. Most of the bandits also followed down the mountain. Only a dozen bandits led by Wang Taizhu remained. They stayed behind as a defensive force. Chapter 25. In Novice Village 10021. Now that the bandits were wreaking havoc, the other players could only hunt for chickens and ducks to level up near the Novice Village. However, with such a large number of players, the number of monsters was simply not enough to go around. However, there was no other way. They could only make do. It was better than nothing. All of a sudden, a few players worked together to beat a wild chicken to death. It was the perfect time to collect as many materials as possible. One of the players inadvertently saw the faintly discernible traces in the distance from the corner of his eyes. Seeing this, the player couldn't help but straighten up and look forward. With just one look, his face turned pale. Bandits? What? As soon as he said this, it immediately attracted the attention of the others. There was no other way. Now, Cold Mountain Stronghold and bandits were the nightmare of the players in Novice Village 10021. Almost all of the players had the experience of dying tragically under the butcher's knife. So much so that, now, they were forced by the bandits to the point where they couldn't move an inch. They could only live a miserable life near the Novice Village. Although the players hated the bandits of Cold Mountain Stronghold, when they heard the 2 words bandits, they couldn't help but feel a trace of panic in their hearts. When the other players looked in the direction of that player's line of sight, their faces suddenly changed. That familiar outfit, that densely packed figure. And he had a tall figure and a resolute face. Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. Not good. Cold Mountain Stronghold Master led the bandits here. They want to attack the novice village. Run, run. Those players who saw Qin Shujian's face were scared out of their wits. They didn't dare to stay in the same place anymore. Instead, they swarmed in the direction of the novice village. There was no other way. Cold Mountain Stronghold Master's name was just too big. If the bandits were to blame for the bandits of Cold Mountain Stronghold for these days, then the one who caused the greatest psychological pressure to the players was Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. These players didn't know the name of Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. They only knew that he was the leader of many bandits in Cold Mountain Stronghold. He was an NPC with terrifying strength, a big boss that was besieged by thousands of players and still killed in a mess. A boss represented a large amount of resources. However, they had to have the ability to kill it first. If they were unable to kill a boss, then it would be a player's nightmare. Now, in their eyes, Mount Liang's Fort Master was a nightmare. Seeing the players flee, Qin Shujian did not send anyone to chase after them. Instead, he led a group of bandits to close in on them. In his eyes, the current players weren't enough to pose much of a threat. The real threat lay in the hidden experts in the novice village itself. In the meantime, the news of Mount Liang's Stronghold Master leading a group of bandits had already spread throughout the entire novice village. It was something that everyone knew. Cold Mountain Stronghold's bandits would never step within 2 li of the novice village. In the past few days, as long as there were players being chased by bandits, they would be killed. However, once they entered this area, the bandits who were chasing them would automatically retreat. Therefore, the other players mistakenly thought that the bandits were under some kind of restriction and would not enter this safe zone. But now, the bandits had broken this rule. Moreover, the leader of the group was the Cold Mountain Fort's Fort Master. This made the other players feel that the situation was far from good. Liangshan's Stronghold Master. After hearing the news, Wang Renbin's expression turned grave. Chao Hong, Zhao Xiaoming, and the other assassins also gathered together. Lu Shoujia said in a deep voice, Liangshan's Stronghold Master actually led the bandits this time. I'm afraid that they came with ill intentions. With the strength of the novice village, we might not be able to defend against them. After saying this, he looked at Wang Renbin. Young Master Wang, when do you plan to make your move? Hearing this, the others also looked at Wang Renbin. 1 million was given. Right now, they could only wait for the Wang family to resolve this situation. Wang Renbin's expression turned serious as he said, Everyone, don't worry. My Wang family is currently gathering other high-level players. It won't be long before they directly teleport over. Outside the novice village, many village guards gathered. The dojo head instructor Zhang and the other NPCs who had fought with Qin Shujian before also appeared here. Liangshan Stronghold Master, what is the meaning of this? At this moment, a tall and sturdy middle-aged man looked at the many bandits. In the end, his gaze fell on Qin Shujian as he sternly shouted. Qin Shujian looked at him and said indifferently, Who are you? I am the dojo master of this village, Gong Zhangwu. Gong Zhangwu's voice was powerful and resonant. Then, he coldly stared at Qin Shujian. The Cold Mountain Stronghold has repeatedly harassed our novice village, 10021. We have already let bygones be bygones. Now that you have come here with such a large force, do you really think we are made of mud? As he spoke, his body faintly emitted a powerful aura. Faintly, one could even feel the surging qi and blood in his body. This familiar scene immediately caused Qin Shujian to narrow his eyes. 6th stage of the martial initiation realm. Qi and blood at the peak. He had already expected that there would be an expert who surpassed the 5th stage of the martial initiation realm in Novice Village, 10021. Now that the owner of the dojo had appeared, Qin Shujian was certain of his thoughts. Qi and blood at the peak was the symbol of the 6th stage of the martial initiation realm. However, if it was before, an expert of the 6th stage of the martial initiation realm was worth being wary of. However, for the current him, a sixth stage of the martial initiation realm was not enough. The only thing that Qin Shujian was worried about was that the novice village 10021 didn't only have a sixth stage of the martial initiation realm in front of him. However, things had already come to this point. No matter how many uncertainties there were, Qin Shujian could not retreat. So what if there was a seventh stage of the martial initiation realm? I will definitely kill him without hesitation. Qin Shujian's eyes turned cold as he waved his hand. Kill. Behind him, the bandits immediately brandished their machetes and charged toward the novice village. Without needing Gong Zhangwu and the others to say anything, the novice village's guards directly went up to meet them. The originally calm scene suddenly turned into a chaotic battle. Kill. The tiger-headed saber was already in Qin Shujian's hand. At the same time, the earth under his feet exploded. His body shot out like an arrow, leaving the bow and slashed toward Gong Zhangwu. He didn't hold back at all in this slash. The strength of the eighth stage of the martial initiation realm burst out in an instant. Combined with the black tiger saber technique at the peak of perfection, the power could be said to be shocking. Boom! The tiger-headed saber directly cut through the air resistance and made a series of explosive sounds. At this moment, in Gong Zhangwu's eyes, Qin Shujian was like a fierce tiger roaring in the forest. That fierce aura was like the cold winter, enough to freeze people's minds. However, Gong Zhangwu was an expert of the sixth stage of the martial initiation realm. Under the rush of the qi and blood, he immediately sobered up. The wrought copper staff in his hand met the attack with a force that could split Mount Hua. Boom. Chapter 26. As soon as the two came into contact, Gong Zhangwu's complexion suddenly changed. A terrifying force came from the tiger-head saber. In an instant, the web between his thumb and forefinger was cracked. His two arms couldn't bear this force, and the bones inside were directly broken. Bang! Gong Zhangwu's knees went soft, and he fell heavily to the ground. His two arms were powerless, and the copper rod in his hands had already rolled to the side. In his line of sight, the tiger head blade was still descending. In the end, his pupils were completely occupied by the blade. Rip! Gong Zhangwu's tall body was directly cut in half. Even at the last moment, he didn't expect that he would be defeated so easily and so miserably. The seventh layer of the body-tempering scripture. The sixth layer of the eternal spring art. He also received the support of the Cold Mountain Stronghold. Although Qin Shujian said that he was at the pseudo-eighth layer of the martial realm, even he wasn't 100% sure how strong he was. In the eyes of others, the sixth stage of the basic martial realm was unbeatable, but in his eyes, it was nothing. After killing Gong Zhangwu with one blade, Qin Shujian's gaze fell on sporting instructor Zhang and the others. If the dojo master, Gong Zhangwu, was considered a small boss, then these fifth-stage basic martial realm cultivators were considered elite leaders. However, when Qin Shujian's gaze moved, sporting instructor Zhang and the others felt as if they were being stared at by a terrifying existence. Their hair stood on end. They also saw the scene from before. Gong Zhangwu's corpse hadn't been refreshed yet, and the bloody scene was still there. Especially sporting instructor Zhang. While his heart was filled with grief, he also felt a surge of fear. No one knew better than him how powerful Gong Zhangwu was. The sixth layer of the martial realm, the peak of qi and blood, wasn't just for show. If he really broke through this threshold, a sixth layer of the martial realm would have no problem defeating 3 or 4 fifth-layer martial artists like him. But in front of the Cold Mountain Stronghold's master, Gong Zhangwu couldn't even withstand a single blow. This kind of strength made sporting instructor Zhang and the others feel a chill in their hearts. So when Qin Shujian's gaze fell on them, sporting instructor Zhang immediately panicked. Retreat. Quickly asked the village chief to help. To be able to kill Gong Zhangwu with one blade, this person was at least a seventh layer of the martial realm. Village chief? Hearing this, Qin Shujian's heart skipped a beat. Looking at the NPC's reactions, this village chief should be the strongest person in beginner village 10021. He had a thought in his mind. When he saw instructor Zhang and the others were Qin Shujian's tigers and its sporting instructor Zhang's body felt as if it had fallen into an ice cellar. He was forced to a stop by the tiger's roar. Whoosh! The blades, SSSS sporting, S's martial, S-begs of it, they's and they they of the village of its they comma. T of business, trying to leave, and was chasing you're about to enter Beginner Village 10,021. You've started a massacre in Beginner Village 10021. You've already angered the village's experts. Once you enter Beginner Village 10021, you'll definitely encounter enemy experts. 2 system notifications appeared at the right time, but Qin Shujian only glanced at them and threw them to the back of his mind. Encounter enemy experts. Since he'd decided to cover Beginner Village 10021, he'd have to face them sooner or later. Gong Zhangwu and sporting instructor Zhang were already dead. If he killed Zhu Daming and Li Chunhua, then there wouldn't be any experts above the 5th layer of the martial realm in the Beginner Village. On the Cold Mountain Stronghold side, there was Zheng Fong, who was at the 4th layer of the martial realm, and there were many 3rd layer of the martial realm experts. Among the NPCs in the Beginner Village, there weren't any that could pose a threat to them. The only thing worth worrying about was the endless stream of players. Qin Shujian's expression was indifferent as he watched the players rushing out of the Beginner's Village in an attempt to stop him. Bandits could respawn after being killed by players. The only price was dropping by 1 layer. He could afford such a loss. Roar. Using the Black Tiger Saber technique at full strength, Qin Shujian had completely transformed into a terrifying tiger that could move unhindered through the forest. When the tiger head saber's sharp saber light burst forth, all the players in its path turned into white light and dissipated. Kill, kill, kill. In the eyes of the players, he was an NPC. But in his eyes, the players were also a source of life. Anyone who tried to stop him had to die. Boom. The sharp saber light converged into a single saber and heavily chopped down. In an instant, white light flashed and everything within 3 feet of Qin Shujian was cleared. Everything seemed to take a long time, but in reality, it happened in the blink of an eye. Seeing Zhu Daming and Li Chunhua take advantage of the gap created by the players to enter the Beginner Village, Qin Shujian's face turned cold. The next moment, boom, the terrifying saber light slashed out, and in an instant, there was a huge sound of explosion. Zhu Daming felt a fatal threat behind him and instinctively wanted to turn around. Just then, he saw a ferocious tiger leaping into the air and swallowing him whole. The saber light flashed. Blood spurted out. After finishing off Zhu Daming with a single strike, Qin Shujian's momentum did not stop as he charged toward Li Chunhua. Buzz! All of a sudden, a terrifying force surged over and went straight for Qin Shujian's chest, aiming for his lifeline. Qin Shujian's eyes were resolute. His body leaned slightly to the side and avoided the meridian in his chest. The tiger head saber carried a sharp gust of wind and still chopped toward Li Chunhua. No. When Gong Zhangwu, Zhu Daming, and the others died, she had already lost all her courage. Now, facing Qin Shujian's killing move, Li Chunhua actually forgot to block. She could only watch the saber chopping down with a pale face. Swish. The next moment, she had already followed in the footsteps of the previous 3. At the same time, a withered palm imprinted on Qin Shujian's shoulder. A terrifying force exploded in an instant and directly shook him back. After taking 3 steps back, Qin Shujian stood still. A sharp pain came from his left shoulder. It was obvious that he had suffered a serious injury. He secretly circulated the power of the eternal spring art, and the pain immediately lessened. His gaze also turned to the front, landing on the body of an old man who was on the verge of death. That old man's body looked like it could be blown away by a gust of wind. However, Qin Shujian felt a vigorous qi and blood power from him. An expert whose strength was far above Gong Zhangwu's. 7th stage of the martial arts realm? Or 8th stage of the martial arts realm? Qin Shujian was not completely sure. However, he knew one thing. The old man in front of him should be the strongest person in Novice Village 10021. He should be the village chief that Instructor Li and the others mentioned. Chapter 27. I didn't expect the new Liang Mountain Stronghold's chief to have reached the copper skin level. With the support of the Liang Mountain Stronghold, you're probably at the 8th stage of the basic realm, Wei Min said unhurriedly. His words were filled with killing intent. 7th stage of the basic realm, 8th stage of the basic realm. Wei Min had noticed Qin Shujian the first time he came to Novice Village 10021. However, as the village chief of the Novice Village, Wei Min could only display his full strength in the Novice Village. Once he left the Novice Village, his strength would be weakened. Therefore, Wei Min didn't have 100% confidence in defeating Qin Shujian, so he chose to remain silent. However, what he didn't expect was, only a few days had passed and Wei Min had reached this step. Wei Min knew that killing inhumans could increase one's level. However, looking at Novice Village 10021, there weren't many players at the first stage of the basic realm. Almost all of them were at the 0th stage of the basic realm. Even if he killed 1,000 or 10,000 players at this level, it wouldn't have any effect on an expert at the 5th stage of the basic realm. Wei Min could only think of one word to describe Wei Min talent. Monstrous talent. There was another possibility, which was that Wei Min had been hiding his strength from the beginning. However, no matter what the truth was, it wasn't important to Wei Min. Since Wei Min dared to step into Novice Village 10021, he was confident that he wouldn't be able to return. Qin Shujian didn't reply to Wei Min's words. In the next second, he had already disappeared from where he stood. An earth-shattering tiger's roar accompanied by a sharp blade slashing down, causing the air to explode. Kill. Wei Min's heart was cold. A long blade appeared in his hand, and he started to fight with Qin Shujian. However, it was only a brief contact. The calm expression on Wei Min's face disappeared, and it turned serious. This was because he felt a terrifying power from the tiger head blade. It was a power that wasn't any weaker than his, a true 8th stage of the basic realm. On the other side, Qin Shujian's expression also turned serious. After the collision, he knew that the village chief wasn't just a simple 7th stage of the basic realm. 8th stage of the basic realm. So what if you are in the 8th stage of the basic realm? Die. Qin Shujian roared in his heart. His body emitted a powerful baleful aura as he executed the 5 elements 8 trigram steps. His hands executed the Black Tiger Saber technique. Immediately, a fierce killing move enveloped Wei Min. Bang. Bang. The speed at which the two exchanged blows was extremely fast, and each blow contained a powerful force. At this time, the Novice Village was already in a mess. In a situation where all the experts above the 5th stage of the basic martial realm were dead, and there were no experts of the 4th stage of the basic martial realm, the 10021 Novice Village was simply not a match for the bandits. However, after killing all the guards, Wang Taizhu and the other bandits faced thousands of players. These players couldn't interfere with the battle between Qin Shujian and Wei Min. However, it wasn't as if they had no chance of winning against the Cold Mountain Stronghold's bandits. Death was nothing. It was fine as long as he could be revived. The bandits of Mount Liang were clearly aiming to exterminate the village. Once the bandits succeeded, the 10021 Novice Village would no longer exist. The players of this Novice Village would also become the laughingstock of all other players. This kind of thing couldn't be tolerated. Slaughter. The entire Novice Village had turned into a battlefield. The bandits were generally very strong. Many bandits of the 1st stage of the basic martial realm had directly advanced to the 2nd stage of the basic martial realm. Even a few of the bandits of the 2nd stage of the basic martial realm had advanced to the 3rd stage of the basic martial realm. Compared to the players who were basically at the 0 stage of the basic martial realm, the bandits were much stronger. However, the players also had an advantage that the bandits couldn't compare to. They had a disproportionate number of players and an extremely fast revival speed. When these two conditions were added together, it resulted in an endless stream of players. It was as if the bandits couldn't kill them all. At the center of the Novice Village, inside a circle of light that was 30 feet wide, white lights would occasionally appear and turn into players. Not long after, the circle of light was completely filled. Let's go, let's go. Those damn bandits are about to kill their way in. Losing your head is just a scar the size of a bowl. In a few minutes, You'll be a good man again. Don't block the way in front. Let's go. F***CK. This stupid game is too realistic. Dying once really hurts. Hurry. Inside the circle of light, many players were clamoring. However, the majority of the players continued to rush outside. The bandits of Mount Liang were about to kill their way in. Now, not many people had the mind to think about protecting themselves. As for dying, although there was a moment of pain, after dying many times, they would gradually get used to it. Only by stopping the bandits was the right path. As for Wei Min and Qin Shujian, they were selectively ignored by the players. There was nothing they could do. The two of them were much stronger than the current players. Some people tried to intervene and help, but before they could even get close, they were killed by the shockwaves. On the other side, Wang Renbin and the others were also paying attention to this battle. They were very clear that the source of the bandits' calamity was Qin Shujian, the head of Mount Liang stronghold. As long as they killed him, the rest of the bandits wouldn't be a problem. Chao Hong took 2 deep breaths and asked the others, "What should we do now? We can't interfere." "Didn't you hear what the village chief said?" Lu Shoujia shook his head and said, "The head of Mount Liang stronghold is a big boss of the 8th stage of the martial realm. You and I aren't even at the 1st stage of the martial realm. If we go up, we'll just be throwing our lives away. 8th stage of the martial realm. The gap is too big. If we can kill this boss, I wonder what kind of items will be dropped." The other players all had different expressions on their faces. A big boss was right in front of them, but they didn't have the ability to kill it. This was the greatest pain in their lives. All of a sudden, a faint blue light appeared in front of them, as if it was a faint light screen. Then, the light screen suddenly dissipated. Behind the light curtain, a group of players in different attire and weapons were revealed. At a rough glance, there were at least 100 of them. "They're here." Wang Renbin revealed a smile and immediately walked toward the group of players. "They're here." When the other players heard this, their expressions were all shocked. They naturally understood what Wang Renbin meant. The group of players that suddenly appeared in front of them, if they guessed correctly, were the reinforcements that they paid a price to invite. "Young master." Among the hundreds of players, the leader stood out and greeted respectfully. Wang Renbin slightly nodded and said, "How strong are the people we brought this time? This boss is an expert of the 8th stage of the martial realm." 8th stage of the martial realm. The leader's expression was also shocked. Soon after, he confidently said, "Young master, don't worry. This time, we brought a total of 100 people. Every one of them is at least an advanced player of the 3rd stage of the martial realm. Moreover, in order to complete young master's mission, we used all our strength to cultivate 5 experts of the 4th stage of the martial realm. Together with a complete set of weapons, even a boss of the 8th stage of the martial realm wouldn't be a match for us." Chapter 28. However, Wang Cheng looked at the scene where Wei Min and Qin Shujian were fighting. He said in a deep voice, "I suggest that we don't act so quickly. The strength of this boss is truly rare. This novice village chief might not be a match for him. If we wait until the village chief dies in the hands of this boss, then we can surround and kill this boss. Then this 1002-1 beginner village may very well be young masters." As a branch family member, Wang Cheng's status was far inferior to Wang Renbin's. When he saw the scene in front of him, he had a different idea. If he could help Wang Renbin seize a novice village, then it would be a great merit for the entire Wang family. As a branch family member, he would also receive great benefits. Seize a novice village? Wang Renbin's expression suddenly became subtle. Every novice village had a lot of resources. If they could seize a novice village, then it would be a great benefit for any faction. However, players were not allowed to attack the NPCs in the novice village. Moreover, there were many powerful NPCs in the novice village. With the current level of players, they did not have the ability to easily conquer a novice village. In addition, this was only a guess of many players. No one had actually verified whether or not they could seize a novice village and make it part of their faction. Therefore, Wang Renbin did not think about this. Now that he heard Wang Cheng's reminder, he finally reacted. That's right. Although this was only a guess, if it was true, then it was very important for the Wang family. Players were not allowed to attack the NPCs in the Novice Village. However, if this Cold Mountain Stronghold Master killed the Novice Village Chief, then they could kill the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master. Not only could they obtain a Novice Village, but they could also obtain a big boss as a reward. No matter how one looked at it, it was killing two birds with one stone. Wang Renbin was now more concerned about whether or not the Cold Mountain Stronghold Master could kill the Novice Village Chief. On the battlefield, Qin Shujian was at his strongest state. The Black Tiger Saber technique was at the peak of perfection. In addition, he was in the 8th stage of the martial realm. When he used this saber technique, it was even more powerful than the creator of this saber technique. Experts at this level were able to see and hear everything in all directions. The sudden appearance of Wang Cheng and the other players had taken him by surprise. However, the players weren't important right now. The most important thing was to get rid of the old man in front of him. That was the most important thing. Tiger descends the mountain. It shocked everyone. Tiger turns back. The muscles on Qin Shujian's arms bulged as he held the saber. His aura changed completely. Every slash of his saber was as terrifying as cutting through the wind and breaking the waves. Facing Qin Shujian's attack, Wei Min's expression also became serious. The long sword in his hand emitted a chilling light as it collided with Qin Shujian's attack. Bang! Bang! Every collision caused sparks to fly. Qin Shujian's arms were jolted by the tiger head saber, and he felt a burst of numbness and pain. However, Qin Shujian had no intention of backing down. Body Tempering Scripture, 7th layer. 6th level of the Eternal Spring Arts. The combination of the two cultivation techniques had been pushed to the limit. The surging qi and blood in his body circulated endlessly. The surging power surged out of his body and flowed into his arms. The two sabers collided. A strong gust of wind spread out. Wei Min's arms trembled slightly. For the first time, he took a step back. In his eyes, there was only shock. His opponent was only at the pseudo-8th stage of the martial initiation realm. Compared to him, a true 8th stage of the martial initiation realm expert, there was a big gap. But now, Wei Min, on the other hand, felt immense pressure from Qin Shujian. He almost thought that he was the pseudo-8th stage of the martial initiation realm, and his opponent was the true 8th stage of the martial initiation realm. However, before Wei Min could think too much, as soon as he took a step back, Qin Shujian had completely seized the initiative. Saber after saber slashed at Wei Min at lightning speed. There was almost no gap left between the places where the saber connected. Wei Min had no choice but to raise his saber to meet the attack head-on. Bang! 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 But every time they collided, Wei Min's arm would tremble. On the other hand, Qin Shujian's aura would become even stronger. At this moment, Qin Shujian seemed to have completely merged with the Black Tiger Saber technique. The tiger head saber in his hand seemed to have come alive. He was indifferent to everything around him. In his eyes, there was only Wei Min. However, Wei Min was an 8th stage of the martial initiation realm expert. No matter how strong his attacks were, his opponent was still tenacious. Qin Shujian looked at his life force. His life force had increased from a few dozen points to over 400 points after he and the bandits killed the NPCs and players. Other than the body forging scripture, all the other cultivation techniques had a plus sign behind them. Immediately after, Qin Shujian glanced at the Black Tiger Saber technique and pressed the plus sign with his mind. Roar! A huge shadow of a black tiger suddenly appeared in the air. The earth-shattering roar seemed to shake 100 miles. Anyone who heard the tiger's roar felt as if they were being stared at by a terrifying existence. The blood in their body froze. Wei Min, who was facing the tiger's roar, seemed to be frozen. It felt like a breath had passed, but it also felt like a long time had passed. When Wei Min finally reacted, he saw a terrifying black tiger pouncing at him. In an instant, it turned into a sharp saber light and swallowed him whole. Boom! The ground shook. A long saber mark appeared as if it had been deeply imprinted. Wei Min stood still. Then, his body was split into two and fell heavily to the ground. You killed Village Chief Wei Min of Novice Village, 10021. Novice Village 10,021's core token is ownerless. You can go to the center of the village to fight for the token. Qin Shujian looked coldly at Wei Min's corpse. His chest was heaving up and down violently. Core token? Center of the village? However, before he could catch his breath, the other onlookers swarmed at him. Seeing that Wei Min was killed, Wang Cheng didn't have time to be shocked. He immediately ordered the other players to surround Qin Shujian. Wang Renbin immediately said, Wang Cheng, have a group of people follow me to the center of the village to fight for the core token. The other group will surround and kill Mount Liang's fort master. When Wei Min died, he also received a system message. Or rather, at this moment, all the players received the same message. At this moment, countless people were rushing toward the center of the village. The core token. It definitely couldn't fall into the hands of others. Otherwise, it would be like drawing water with a bamboo basket. Hearing this, Wang Cheng understood the importance of this matter. He immediately ordered a group of people to follow Wang Renbin. As for himself, he led the other players to surround and kill the 8th stage Martial Realm boss. Chapter 29. Those who practice the parallel training technique go up and tank the boss's damage. Give the others a chance to attack. This boss's level is too high. Don't take it head-on. Spread the damage evenly. Wang Cheng gave out orders in an orderly manner. Although his words were solemn, his heart was still extremely heavy. A big boss of the 8th stage of the basic realm. Even he had never truly faced it before. With the Wang family's strength, they had to use thousands of players to kill a boss of the 6th stage of the basic realm. However, most of the players who participated in the battle were around the 1st stage of the basic realm. There were only a few who were at the 2nd stage of the basic realm. Their equipment was also very simple. Compared to his current team, they were much weaker. In terms of numbers, there were only 60 to 70 players. However, in terms of quality, they were far superior to most of the current players. 8th stage of the basic realm. It wasn't that they had no chance, especially since this boss had fought with an NPC of the same level. Its strength must have been severely damaged. This was the main reason why Wang Cheng was so confident. Looking at the players surrounding him, Qin Shujian's face turned cold. Although he didn't know where these people came from, he was sure that they weren't players from the 10021 Novice Village. Because the players of Novice Village 10021 had long since been suppressed by Cold Mountain Stronghold. How could they possibly nurture a player of such a high level? However, facing these players, he didn't immediately make a move. Instead, he looked around. While he was fighting with Wei Min, the bandits of the Cold Mountain Stronghold had already slaughtered all the guards and NPCs in the Novice Village. However, under the continuous attacks of the players, the bandits couldn't completely resist, no matter how strong they were. Therefore, when Qin Shujian looked around, he saw a large number of players and a small number of bandits still resisting. However, they were also heavily injured and could be killed at any time. He didn't save these bandits. First, it was very difficult to bring these bandits out of the encirclement of so many players. Second, if they were killed by players, the bandits would respawn. At this time, the players that Wang Cheng had organized gradually formed an encirclement. Go! Following Wang Cheng's command, a dozen or so players with robust physiques stepped forward and launched a frontal assault on Shifeng's team. Even more players circled around to ambush them from the side. However, before their attacks could reach him, Qin Shujian had already moved. Boom! An intimidating aura erupted in an instant, and the shadow of a black tiger suddenly appeared. The tiger's thunderous roar had the power to shatter the heavens and earth. Immediately after, then, a terrifying blade light burst out. Boom! The saber light was as fast as a clap of thunder as it slashed through the air, creating a series of explosive sounds. Before the dozen or so players in front of Shifeng could do anything, the frightening saber light devoured them, turning them into white light and disappearing into thin air. This sudden change not only shocked the other players who were preparing to attack. Even Wang Cheng's face was filled with shock as he cried out in disbelief. How is this possible? The dozen or so players were all experts in the 3rd stage of the basic realm. Among them, there were even 2 who were in the 4th stage of the basic realm. What they practiced was a defensive cultivation technique. They were also the main players in tanking the boss attacks. Even when they surrounded and killed the 6th-stage Martial Realm boss, these players didn't lose many. But now, just one slash. The dozen or so players who could resist the 6th-stage Martial Realm boss attacks were all slaughtered. This kind of loss made Wang Chung unable to care about the pain in his heart. Just as he was about to give another order, it was already too late. Whoosh! Qin Shujian stepped on the 5 elements 8 trigrams, and the tiger head saber was like the Grim Reaper's scythe, slaughtering the players who had surrounded him and didn't have time to retreat. Even Wei Min, who was in the 8th stage of the basic realm, wasn't his match. These players, who were at most in the 4th stage of the basic realm, were no different from chickens and dogs in Qin Shujian's eyes. A level 9 refined weapon, coupled with his current strength, was really not much harder than chopping vegetables. In just a short dozen or so seconds, no less than 20 or 30 players died under his blade. After harvesting a batch of lives, Qin Shujian didn't bother to chase after the players who had scattered in all directions. Instead, he walked toward the center of the novice village. Since he had the core token, he naturally wouldn't give it up. The boss in the novice village was killed by him. Now that the players wanted to pick the fruits of his labor, they were dreaming. Quick! Stop him! Wang Chung, who had reacted, looked at Qin Shujian, who was about to leave, and his face instantly paled. The people he had brought over this time were all elites cultivated by the Wang family. Every time they died, they would lose a portion of their strength. If he didn't stall for time and let Wang Renbin obtain the core token, he would definitely be punished. It turned out that the players who had instinctively retreated immediately reacted after hearing Wang Cheng's words and attacked Qin Shujian's back. Feeling the wind behind him, Qin Shujian's face turned cold. "You're courting death." He paused his footsteps, and an arc of saber light exploded from his body, sweeping in all directions with the force of thunder. Boom! The players who hadn't completely closed in were all turned into white light and disappeared in front of this terrifying saber light. This scene involuntarily scared away quite a few people. Qin Shujian didn't pay any attention to it, and instead, he steadily walked forward, using the saber in his hand to open a path. Who knew how many white lights disappeared with each step? Any player who blocked his path. It didn't matter if they came to stop him, or if they simply couldn't dodge in time. Qin Shujian killed them all without hesitation. The center of the novice village was where the village chief used to live. Now, the house had long been destroyed, and only a copper token was left floating in the air. Below the token, there was a light blue circle of light that was 3 meters wide. At this moment, Wang Renbin was standing in the circle of light. There were less than 10 players left of the group he had brought, and they surrounded the circle of light. Within this small circle of light, there were other players who were eyeing him covetously. However, no one made a move. Although Wang Renbin had brought over high-level players this time, in front of tens of thousands of people, they still couldn't do much. The reason why the others didn't make a move was because the other party had made a promise. The Wang family was rich and overbearing. There was no doubt about this. Now, Wang Renbin looked calm on the surface, but he was actually very nervous. In order to get this opportunity, he had paid a heavy price. Even as a direct descendant of the Wang family, he felt pained. Now, in order to get the core token, he had to occupy the circle of light for 10 minutes. 10 minutes wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. As time slowly passed, a ferocious aura came from afar, followed by the screams of many players and countless flashes of white light. The Langshan village chief is here. Chapter 30. What? Wang Renbin was shocked as he looked at the horrifying figure in the distance. With every step he took, a large number of players would die. Seeing this, he was even more shocked. The Langshan Fort Master, this big boss, had actually appeared here. Without a doubt, Wang Chung and the others had all died at his hands. They were the elite players that the Wang family had nurtured. If he wasn't a direct descendant of the Wang family, he wouldn't even have the authority to mobilize them. But now, they had all died here. When he saw Qin Shujian walking towards the direction of the core token, Wang Renbin immediately panicked. The loss was irreversible. If he couldn't get the core token now, he would really suffer a double loss. Everyone, Please block the path of Mount Liang's Fort Master. As long as I can obtain the core command medallion, the Wang clan will reward you with 1,000 taels of silver taels every time you die. Afterwards, you can find someone from the Wang clan to redeem the reward. I guarantee with my status as a direct descendant of the Wang family that I won't go back on my word. After these words were spoken, the eyes of the players who were originally hesitating instantly turned red. 1,000 for every death. This money was simply too easy to come by. Most of the players here were just ordinary people. Although $1,000 wasn't much, it was a huge temptation to get $1,000 for each death, considering Wang Renbin's words and the status of the Wang family. In this kind of situation, the probability of him going back on his word wasn't high. Moreover, players could revive after dying. Moreover, everyone here was at level 0 of the basic realm. It could be said that dying was something that didn't cost anything. As a result, the other players immediately moved and rushed towards Qin Shujian. Seeing this, Wang Renbin secretly let out a sigh of relief. Then, he looked at the progress bar again. 6 more minutes. Wang Renbin looked at the densely packed players and Qin Shujian who was slaughtering in the crowd. His heart calmed down a bit. The Langshan Fort Master was at least a dozen meters away from his position. Within this dozen-meter distance, the number of players could be said to be endless. Even if Wang Renbin didn't think that the players here could fight against this big boss, it shouldn't be a problem to stall for 6 minutes. No matter what, he had to get the core token first. As soon as he obtained the token, he immediately retreated. As long as he could leave this place, he didn't believe that Mount Liang's Fort Master could do anything to him. At the very least, with the token in hand, even if he was killed, so what? As long as he didn't drop it, the token would still be his. The current Wang Renbin could only hope that the core token's value was not too low. However, according to his own estimation, the core token was most likely a means to control the novice village. On the other side, Qin Shujian could naturally see the copper token floating in the air, as well as Wang Renbin standing in the circle of light. When he saw the other players rushing towards him, his heart was filled with killing intent. There were no words. His footsteps did not stop at all. Yes. However, the tiger-head saber shot out a sharp saber light. After the black tiger saber technique evolved, Xiao Qin executed it with all his might. A black tiger several meters long appeared in the air, and its roar shook the surrounding 5 kilometers. With every step he took, dozens of players disappeared. As Qin Shujian watched the players rush to their deaths, realization dawned on him. It turned out that he had already become this powerful. In the past, when he heard the word player, his heart would be filled with fear. Now, he was able to treat players like chickens and pottery dogs. Even if there were players who broke through the saber light and attacked Qin Shujian, it didn't cause any changes. The copper skin that came with the 7th stage of the martial realm allowed his defense to reach a terrifying level. With these players who hadn't even reached the 1st stage of the martial realm, unless they had some kind of godly weapon, they wouldn't be able to hurt him. How can we fight like this? We can't break through his defense at all. Seeing this scene, many players cried out in their hearts. The prerequisite for using the human wave tactic to kill the boss was to break through his defense. If they couldn't even break through his defense, then it would be useless no matter how many people there were. Because if they couldn't even break through his defense, they wouldn't even lose any blood. No matter how much they attacked, they would only be scratching an itch. As a large number of players died, the life force that had been depleted increased at an extremely fast rate. Finally, it directly broke through the 700-point mark. This was the first time in Qin Shujian's history that he had so much life force. All the skills, including the body tempering scripture, had a plus sign in front of this 700-point mark. Without hesitation, Qin Shujian directly tapped on the body tempering scripture. Immediately after, he saw his life force decrease like a tide. Immediately after, a sharp pain caused his face to slightly distort. However, it was suppressed by his willpower that had reached its peak. Boom! An even more powerful aura exploded from Qin Shujian's body. Some of the players who were too close to him were caught off guard by this burst of aura and fell back. When the other players saw this, they couldn't help but be stunned. This was? He broke through? F***CK. All of the players couldn't help but curse in their hearts. The Langshan camp master, this big boss, was already hard enough to fight. Now that he had broken through, his strength would definitely become even more terrifying. This way, there was no way to fight back. Just as expected, after breaking through, Qin Shujian's strength became even more terrifying. A powerful force surged from his body. The veins on his arms bulged like horned dragons. Slash! With a loud shout, he slashed out with his long blade. Rumble! The blade of the blade emitted a cold light and directly cleared out all the players within 3 feet of Qin Shujian. A terrifying blade mark was left on the ground. This scene scared the other players so much that they froze on the spot. On the other hand, Qin Shujian didn't care about them and continued to charge towards Wang Renbin. The players who were blocking his path all turned into white light and disappeared. Quick, go and stop him. Wang Renbin's face turned green. He hurriedly ordered the Wang family's elite players who were still guarding him. Hearing this, the remaining 10 or so players didn't dare to hesitate and charged towards Qin Shujian. When Wang Renbin saw that there was only a minute left, his heart was filled with anxiety. He didn't expect Qin Shujian's strength to be so tyrannical. Even tens of thousands of players couldn't stop him. Seeing that the time was almost up, Qin Shujian was only 10 meters away from him. Wang Renbin could even faintly feel the sharpness of the blade in his opponent's hand. Finally, when there were only 30 seconds left, a tall figure stood in front of Wang Renbin. That fierce aura made Wang Renbin's heart tremble involuntarily. No! Even though Wang Renbin was unwilling, the blade that compressed the air was already slashing towards him. He didn't block it. He didn't stop it. When Wang Renbin saw that the time was almost up, his vision turned black. His body turned into white light and disappeared. Only a fine steel sword was left behind. Qin Shujian stepped into the circle of light. Suddenly, the system's information appeared. Chapter 31. You are participating in the fight for the Novice Village 10,021's core token. Currently, you are the owner of the token. If you are not killed within the time limit or do not leave the range of the token, you will receive the ownership of the Novice Village 10,021's core token. Below the system's information, there was a countdown. Seeing this, Qin Shujian understood. This was also the reason why the player that was killed by him still did not receive the core token even after standing there for so long. 10 minutes did not seem like a long time. In fact, it was fatal. After all, with so many players fighting for it, who could guarantee that he would be able to survive and stand out among the thousands of players? However, the other players could not do it, but that did not mean that Qin Shujian could not. Looking at the surrounding players who did not dare to move forward, Qin Shujian's expression was cold as he stood with his hands behind his back. The tiger-headed broadsword was stabbed into the ground, half of it buried in the mud. Seeing this, many players showed anger on their faces. Everyone could see that this boss did not put them in his eyes. If it was someone else, these players would have already rushed forward. However, looking at Qin Shujian, who was standing in the circle of light, the anger in these players' hearts did not last long. They suddenly felt powerless. They had to fight. They had to be able to win. Even if they could break through the boss's defense, with so many players continuously reviving, they could still kill the boss. However, the master of Mount Liang camp was too strong. Not only was his attack powerful, even his defense was unparalleled. With the current strength of the players, they could not even break through his defense. Wanting to rely on numbers to win against this boss was no doubt a fool's dream. At this moment, many players felt a deep malice from the game. We can't fight anymore. Lu Shoujia took a few deep breaths, feeling powerless. He was not the only one. Even the leaders of the other forces had dark expressions on their faces. They had played so many games. This was the first time they were rubbing their faces against the ground. However, they did not have the ability to resist. Zhao Xiaoming's expression was gloomy as she sighed. After this, our novice village 10021 will be famous. A novice village that was trampled by the boss. The ones who lost face were all the players in novice village 10021. Let's go. Chao Hong turned around and left. Instead of seeing Qin Shujian's irritating face, it was better to not see it and not feel annoyed. Thinking about how he had died at the hands of the bandits of Mount Liang no less than 10 times, he had an impulse to perish together with Qin Shujian. If they could really perish together, Chao Hong would definitely not hesitate. However, he was very clear about this. If he really rushed up, he would only be pinned to the ground and hammered. After Chao Hong left, the others hesitated for a moment before leaving unwillingly. For a moment, many of the players gathered in the center of the novice village quietly retreated. However, there were even more players who were unwilling to give up standing there. Entering was not an option either. He couldn't retreat either. Time slowly passed. The players didn't dare to make a move, and Qin Shujian wasn't interested in making a move either. The most important thing now was to obtain the core token. 10 minutes was neither short nor long. Soon, the countdown came to an end. You've obtained the core token of Novice Village 10021. You can choose to destroy it or absorb it. Destroy. The core token will be converted into the corresponding life force, and Novice Village 10021 will no longer exist. Absorb. The Mount Liang Stronghold Master Token can absorb the core token of Novice Village 10021. After absorbing, the Mount Liang Stronghold Master Token will be upgraded, and Mount Liang Stronghold will be promoted to a first-class force. When the countdown came to an end, the light blue halo faded away, and the floating copper token fell into Qin Shujian's hands. At the same time, the system's information arrived as expected. When he saw the last 2 messages, Qin Shujian's heart slightly moved. Logically speaking, life force was the most important thing to him. Although he didn't know how much life force he could obtain by destroying the core token, it shouldn't be too little. After all, it took a lot of effort to conquer Novice Village 10021. However, when he saw the last message, Qin Shujian hesitated. Mount Liang Stronghold promoted to a first-class force. Qin Shujian actually didn't know what a first-class force was. However, he was sure of one thing. If Mount Liang Stronghold promoted to a first-class force, it might be beneficial to the entire Mount Liang Stronghold. One option was obviously to promote individually. The other option was to promote collectively. However, Qin Shujian only hesitated for a moment before he made a decision. He didn't forget. The reason he was able to promote his strength so quickly was mostly due to the other bandits killing the players, which provided him with a large amount of life force. Otherwise, if he were to rely on himself, he might not be able to promote to his current level even if he killed for a long time. Moreover, he had to think about it from another perspective. As the Mount Liang Stronghold Master, increasing the strength of Mount Liang Stronghold was also indirectly increasing his own strength. If Mount Liang Stronghold's overall strength became stronger, then it would certainly provide him with more life force in the future. Therefore, this was the main reason Qin Shujian made his decision. Absorb, with a thought. The Mount Liang Stronghold Master token in his arms suddenly flew out and merged with the core token of the Novice Village. Finally, a cyan token floated in front of Qin Shujian. When he grasped the cyan token, the system's information refreshed. You've absorbed the core token of Novice Village 10021. The Mount Liang Stronghold Master token in your hand has transformed. Because of your identity as the Mount Liang Stronghold Master, Mount Liang Stronghold has been promoted to a first-class force. First-class force. All bandits' realms have increased by 2 levels, cannot exceed the 6th level of the basic realm. Mount Liang Stronghold's influence has increased. As the Mount Liang Stronghold Master, your realm has been promoted. Because you're already at the 8th level of the basic realm, your realm promotion has failed. You've received an extra 500 life force. When he saw this information, Qin Shujian's face revealed a carefree smile. He never expected that Mount Liang Stronghold would receive so many benefits after becoming a first-class force. Not to mention anything else. Just the fact that all bandits' realms had increased by 2 levels was enough to increase the overall strength of Mount Liang Stronghold by several folds. At the same time, because the core token has been absorbed by the Mount Liang Stronghold Master, Novice Village 10021 no longer exists. The original players of Novice Village 10021 will be assigned immediately. During the assignment period, players will be forced to go offline. Countdown, 5 seconds. When the other players' core tokens were absorbed, their expressions changed drastically. The system's information was completely unexpected. F***CK. Many players directly cursed. But before they could say anything, they turned into white light and disappeared on the spot. They had been forced to go offline. Chapter 32. In a luxuriously decorated room, the gaming pod slowly opened. Chao Hong sat up and patted his head a few times to clear his head. Then, he came out of the gaming pod. When he thought of the last system message, his face turned ugly. What's going on? They were wiped out by a boss? When he thought of this, Chao Hong couldn't help but complain. While Qin Shujian was absorbing the core token, he was already preparing to leave Novice Village 10021, this troublesome place. The bandits of Mount Lianggang were powerful. If he couldn't afford to offend them, he could at least hide. However, before he could make the next move, he received a system message and was forced to go offline. When he thought of Qin Shujian's terrifying strength, Chao Hong sighed again. He walked to the computer. Then, he opened the forum to browse. The game had been open for a long time. He believed that many high-level players should have found some strategies. After the bandit disaster, Chao Hong knew that he couldn't look at the game with the same eyes as before. Know yourself and know your enemy. Only then can you win every battle. When Chao Hong opened the forum interface, a huge title was placed on the front page of the forum. Shocking boss destroyed the Novice Village. Tens of thousands of players were helpless. When he saw this title, Chao Hong had a bad feeling. Sure enough, when he clicked on this post, there was a video waiting to be played. The video's cover was the cold face of the Mount Lianggang's master. He clicked to play the video. Then, the scene suddenly changed. Half an hour passed. Chao Hong finished watching the video with a gloomy face. From the time the bandits attacked the Novice Village 1002, to the time Qin Shujian stood in the circle of light, no player dared to get close to him. The entire process had been recorded. As for the recording ability, it was a support function that every player had. However, what Chao Hong didn't expect was who had recorded this incident and posted it on the forum. As a result, it was hard for them not to lose face. After Chao Hong finished watching the video, he wanted to close the post. But when he saw the 999 plus comments, he clicked on it. Then, there was a series of comments. 20 minutes passed. Chao Hong closed the comments section with a dark face. He knew that the comments wouldn't be anything good, but he still clicked on it. The facts proved that his previous understanding was not wrong. However, judging from the comments, none of the other players had ever encountered a big boss like the Cold Mountain Fort Master. A small number of players sympathized with the destruction of Novice Village 10021. Of course, most of them were complaining. Cold Mountain Stronghold Master, we formed a grudge. Don't let me find an opportunity. Chao Hong suppressed the anger in his heart. The growth of players was always much faster than that of NPCs. Even though the current Mount Liang's Fort Master was so powerful that he could be said to be invincible, it didn't mean that he would be able to do so in the future. By the time all the players had leveled up, Chao Hong was already prepared to clear Cold Mountain Stronghold. Cold Mountain Stronghold. At this moment, his appearance had changed greatly. After reaching the third stage of the basic realm, the intelligence of these bandits rose from their original low to the level of a normal person. And this was also what Qin Shujian was most satisfied with. Originally, although the bandits were obedient, most of them were low in intelligence and were easily killed by the players. Before Zhengfang and the others came, he couldn't even find a few bandits to communicate with normally. But now that Cold Mountain Stronghold had become a first-class faction, these bandits that Qin Shujian had been worried about were finally acting like humans. Besides that, the simple and crude buildings of the stronghold had completely changed. After the work of professional carpenters and masons, even if they were still using local materials, the renovated stronghold had a bit more of its original grandeur. In the Hall of Loyalty. After the renovation, the Hall of Loyalty had expanded a lot. Even the decorations were not as simple as before. Qin Shujian sat at the head of the table. Below him were Zhengfang, Zhang Tiniu, and the other bandit leaders. This time, we were able to conquer the player village and raise the mountain stronghold to a first-grade faction. All of you have contributed greatly. I am also very gratified. Qin Shujian had a smile on his face as he looked at everyone in the loyalty hall. Zhang Fong cupped his hands and said, "Thanks to Master's strength, we were able to secure victory in one fell swoop. We don't dare to take credit for ourselves." The military advisor is right. Everything is thanks to Master's wisdom. Zhang Tiniu and the others hurriedly agreed. If I say you've done well, you've done well. Qin Shujian raised his hand and gestured slightly. The scene immediately fell silent. Then, his gaze fell on Zhang Fong. This newly promoted military advisor was originally a 4th stage of the basic realm expert. However, after being surrounded and killed by many players, his realm dropped to the 3rd stage of the basic realm. However, after Cold Mountain Stronghold was promoted to a first-class faction, his strength did not decrease. Instead, it increased, and he became a 5th-stage expert in one fell swoop. Even Zhang Tiniu, Wang Taizhu, and the other original bandits, as well as Zhao Shanlin, Wang Hu, and the others who came with Zhang Fong, all increased their realms to the 4th stage of the basic realm. Apart from that, there were also 3 other bandits who reached the 4th stage of the basic realm. Right now, they were all sitting there. Feeling Qin Shujian's gaze, Zhang Fong also felt a great amount of pressure. I intend to create 3 positions under the Fort Master position: Elite Leader, Big Leader, and Leader. Qin Shujian looked at everyone and slowly said, "This time, the military advisor contributed a lot in conquering the player village. Therefore, today, I will promote him to the same position as the Elite Leader." After saying this, Zhang Fong's body slightly shook. He immediately stood up and said solemnly, "Rest assured, Master. I will do my best until I die." Qin Shujian slightly nodded. Then, he looked at Zhang Tiniu and the others and said, "Zhang Tiniu and Wang Taizhu have been with me for a long time. You've always worked hard and made great contributions. Today, I will promote you to Elite Leader." "Thank you, Master." Zhang Tiniu and Wang Taizhu were overjoyed. They hurriedly stood up and replied. Zhao Shanlin, Wang Hu, Qin Daniu, Fu Gang. When he said the name Fu Gang, Qin Shujian couldn't help but pause for a moment. There was no other way. In this bandit lair where Tiniu, Air, and Gooden ran amok, there was suddenly such a normal name that he couldn't help but pay attention to. However, he only paused for a moment before continuing. Fu Gang, Sun Erju, and the other 4 will be promoted to leaders. "Thank you, Master." Zhao Shanlin and Wang Hu, as well as the 3 bandits who had just reached the 4th stage of the basic realm, all responded in unison. Chapter 33. Every elite leader has 3 big leaders. Each big leader has 3 small leaders, and each small leader is in charge of 10 ordinary bandits. Qin Shujian said calmly. He had thought about this a long time ago. However, the problem of the players had not been solved, so he did not implement it. Now that the problem of the players had been solved, and Cold Mountain Stronghold's strength had greatly increased, it could be considered to be on the right track. Therefore, there were some necessary conditions that needed to be fulfilled. Cold Mountain Stronghold only had 100 or so bandits. However, if he really wanted to expand, this number of bandits was far from enough. Qin Shujian already had plans to expand Cold Mountain Stronghold, but he had not implemented it yet. As he finished speaking, Zhang Fong and the others did not object. Obviously, they were also satisfied with this division. Although the expert village has been destroyed, there may still be other expert villages around Mount Liang. What you need to do now is to carefully search the area within a radius of 50 miles around Mount Liang. Make sure that you don't overlook anything. Finally, Qin Shujian gave another order. Zhang Fong and the others cupped their hands and replied, "We obey. Go." Qin Shujian waved his hand. Then, the others immediately stood up and left. In the loyalty hall, only Qin Shujian was left. Phew. Qin Shujian could not help but exhale a mouthful of turbid air. It was only now that he could truly relax. How could he allow others to sleep beside him? If he did not destroy Novice Village 10021, he would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Fortunately, everything was developing according to his expectations. Qin Shujian temporarily threw away the thoughts that should not be in his mind. Only then did he seriously count the gains from destroying the novice village. First of all, when Cold Mountain Stronghold became a first-class force, all the bandits increased their strength by 2 realms. This also meant that even the most ordinary bandits in Cold Mountain Stronghold had the strength of the 3rd stage of the martial realm. Moreover, no matter how many times they died, they would not fall below the 3rd stage of the martial realm after resurrection. One must know that the previous leader, Wu Sheng, without the support of a force, was only at the 3rd stage of the martial realm. From this, one could see how much the Cold Mountain Stronghold's strength had changed. However, what Qin Shujian really cared about was his own attributes. Name: Qin Shujian. Identity: Liangshan Stronghold. Chief affiliation: Liangshan Village. Realm: 10th tier of the basic realm, located within the Cold Mountain Stockade sphere of influence. Realm +2, force level, 1st grade force cultivation technique. Body forging scripture 8th level, plus. Strength flowing at will, chi and blood flourishing, copper skin, iron bones, mortal tier middle grade, black tiger saber technique, unity of heaven and man, mortal tier middle grade, eternal spring gong. 6th level, plus. Eternal vitality, life extension, mortal tier middle grade, 7-leaf piercing flower palm, plus. Master, mortal tier low grade, 5 elements 8 trigram steps, plus. Great heights, mortal tier low grade, life source. 1203 equipment: tiger head saber, tiger skin suit, tiger skin coat, tiger skin trousers, tiger skin belt, tiger skin thick boots, compared to the attributes at the beginning. Now, Qin Shujian's interface was gorgeous. The 8th level of the body tempering scripture and the 6th level of the eternal spring art. And the black tiger saber technique at the unity of heaven and man level. If the Great Heights level was the limit of the black tiger saber technique at the mortal tier middle grade, then the unity of heaven and man level had surpassed this limit and reached a point where it could turn something rotten into something magical. Also, it could be said that, in terms of understanding of the black tiger saber technique, Qin Shujian had surpassed the person who created this saber technique, or the NPC. The reason why he could kill Wei Min was because of the unity of heaven and man level of the black tiger saber technique. After that, Qin Shujian looked at the other attributes. Under the faction, there was an additional faction level attribute. Originally, the Cold Mountain Stockade faction could only get a realm +1 buff. Now, it had become a realm +2 buff, increasing their strength by a lot. However, what really made Qin Shujian happy was that his life source had reached an unprecedented 1,200 points. Except for the black tiger saber technique, in front of these more than 1,000 points of life source, the rest of the cultivation techniques had a plus sign behind them, implying that they could be deduced and upgraded. Of these more than 1,000 points of life source, 500 points were contributed to the promotion of a level 1 faction. The other large amount was contributed by Wei Min, the village chief of the novice village. Combining the two, Qin Shujian estimated that he had 800 to 900 points. As for the rest, it was the life source that he obtained from killing the players. 1,203 points of life source. I wonder what level the body forging scripture can be deduced to, Qin Shujian thought to himself. Subsequently, he directly pressed the plus sign behind the body forging scripture. Buzz. His life source decreased by 900 points. The body forging scripture was directly upgraded to the 9th level. Pain. A heart-wrenching pain suddenly surged in his body. Even with Qin Shujian's tenacious perseverance, his face suddenly became distorted and ugly. This kind of pain was not a simple physical pain. It was a sharp pain that came from the bones and even the bone marrow. Even though he tried his best to control it, his body still trembled slightly. In just a dozen seconds, sweat soaked his clothes. This kind of sharp pain, it only lasted for 5 minutes. But in these 5 minutes, Qin Shujian seemed to have gone through a long time, and his spirit was dispirited. Immediately after, he opened his mouth and spat out a few mouthfuls of black blood. However, unlike before, the blood he spat out this time seemed to be mixed with some kind of small residue. Subsequently, A new power surged from every part of his body. Qin Shujian's originally dispirited spirit recovered at an extremely fast speed under the cleansing of this power. The 9th layer of the body-tempering scripture, 9th stage of the basic realm. At the same time, he obtained a brand new trait, bone marrow fullness. Feeling the changes in his body, Qin Shujian looked at the attributes on the interface and had a new understanding of his own realm. Below the 5th stage of the basic realm, it was equivalent to laying a foundation. Only after reaching the 5th stage of the basic realm would one be able to complete the initial tempering. Further back, it was a step to dig out the human body's potential on a deeper level. 6th stage of the basic martial realm, 7th stage of the basic martial realm copper skin, 8th stage of the basic martial realm iron bones, and 9th stage of the basic martial realm bone marrow. This was all about tempering one's flesh to perfection step by step. 9th stage of the basic realm, full bone marrow. Qin Shujian's face revealed a carefree smile. Every breakthrough made him feel that he had completed a transformation. Even though the process was painful, it always made him satisfied. Looking at the remaining 300 points of life, body forging scripture and black tiger saber technique had no chance to improve. Only the eternal spring art and other cultivation techniques were left. After thinking again and again, Qin Shujian still thought that the most important thing was to improve his fundamental strength as much as possible. Although the eternal spring art could not help him break through his realm, it could help him accumulate more experience in the same realm. Therefore, Qin Shujian immediately chose to improve the eternal spring art. His mind moved. His life source decreased sharply. A warm power surged from his body, and the eternal spring art was improved to the 7th stage. Eternal spring art, 7th stage. Eternal vitality, level 2 life extension. Level 2 life extension? Looking at the attributes of the eternal spring art, Qin Shujian's eyes changed. Chapter 34. Name: Qin Shujian Identity, Liangshan Stockade Head Affiliation, Liangshan Stockade Realm, 10th layer of the basic realm, Liangshan Stockade's territory, Realm +2, rank, 1st class Stockade Cultivation Method, 9th layer of body forging scripture, power flowing at will, chi and blood flourishing, copper skin, iron bones, abundant bone marrow, mortal tier high grade, black tiger saber technique, unity of heaven and man, mortal tier middle grade, eternal spring gong, eternal vitality, level 2 of life extension, mortal tier middle grade, 7-leaf piercing flower palm, become advanced, mortal tier low grade, 5 elements 8 trigram steps, greater heights, mortal tier low grade, source of life, 3 equipment, 9th grade sharp weapon tiger head saber, 9th grade armor tiger skin set, tiger skin coat, tiger skin trousers, tiger skin belt, tiger skin thick boots. Looking at his own attributes, Qin Shujian's gaze stopped at the realm. 10th layer of the basic realm? The 9th layer of the body forging scripture had already raised his strength to the 9th layer of the basic realm. Now, with the +2 attribute, his realm stopped at the 10th layer of the basic realm. This also made Qin Shujian realize that the 10th layer of the basic realm was a bottleneck. If he wanted to break through, he would need to undergo another transformation. After all, the realm boost from the territory could only allow him to cross a small realm, not a large realm. Also, when the body forging scripture was deduced to the 9th layer, it directly went from mortal middle grade to mortal high grade. In this way, the body tempering scripture had become his highest ranked cultivation technique. Even the black tiger saber technique of the mortal rank could not compare to it. When the eternal spring art was deduced to the 6th layer, it had already been promoted to mortal middle grade. As for the source of life, it was back to its original state. His source of life that had been in the 4 digits was now in the single digits. However, Qin Shujian was not discouraged. My true realm is the 9th layer of the basic realm. With the boost from the territory, it directly reached the 10th layer of the basic realm. There should be no one in Liangshan who can be my opponent. Thinking of this, his eyes seemed to emit a bright light. A radius of 50 li is not small for the original Liangshan stockade, but for the current Liangshan stockade village, it is still too small. How can a dragon be nurtured in shallow water? The next day, at the peak of Mount Liang, This was Qin Shujian's first time standing at the peak of Mount Liang and overlooking the entire Mount Liang. Looking into the distance, apart from Mount Liang, everything else was lush and green. After coming to this world for so long, this was the first time he looked at everything with a natural attitude. And as his realm increased, every aspect of his physical body had undergone a terrifying transformation. This included eyesight. Within a radius of 50 miles. It wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. With Qin Shujian's eyesight, he could clearly see a few villages located far away from each other. At this moment, apart from Qin Shujian, Zhang Tiniu and Wang Taizhu were also standing on the summit of Mount Liang. These two NPCs were originally bandits of Mt. Liang. He had already become Qin Shujian's trusted aide. Do you know what those villages do? Qin Shujian didn't turn his head. His gaze was still looking into the distance. These are the native villages of Mount Liang. Every year, they will provide us with a fixed amount of tribute in exchange for the safety of the villages. Wang Taizhu thought for a moment and said, "We will also occasionally go to those villages to purchase supplies." Upon hearing this, Qin Shujian understood what was going on. According to Wang Taizhu, these villages would pay a fixed amount of protection fees to Liangshan Stockade every year, and Liangshan Stockade would protect these villages to prevent them from being persecuted by other forces. More importantly, Mount Liang was actually very remote. The bandits of Mount Liangshan Stockade needed a certain amount of food every day. As time passed, the amount of food they needed to consume was not small. If they wanted to go out to purchase supplies, they would have to bear a certain amount of risk. As for going to other villages for free, they would also have to bear the same losses. In that case, occasionally trading with these villages would be the safest thing to do. Of course, purchasing was just what Wang Taizhu said. As for whether or not he was forcing people to buy or sell, this was a matter of benevolence. However, according to Qin Shujian's thoughts, the original Mount Liangshan Stockade would not persecute the villages in their own territory too much. It must be known that as long as one wasn't an idiot, not many people would do something like killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. After gaining a better understanding of Mount Liang's territory, Qin Shujian turned around and looked at the two people. He said in a deep voice, "I will give you 3 days to investigate the situation in the stone forest. I need to know the specific strength of those 3 forces. If conditions permit, I hope that you will investigate all the areas bordering Mount Liang's territory." Could it be that stockade master? Wang Taizhu seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Qin Shujian in disbelief. There was shock in his eyes, but also uncontrollable joy. The increase in power seemed to have raised the intelligence of the original bandits to a new level. In the past, Wang Taizhu would never have thought of so many things. But now, Qin Shujian had only revealed a hint, and he had already figured out most of the key points of the plan. Qin Shujian said calmly, "The territory of 50 li is too small. It can only accommodate Wushang and the weak Mount Liangshan Stockade. But now, it can no longer accommodate the current Mount Liangshan Stockade, and it can no longer accommodate you and me." Previously, when he sent people to investigate the surrounding situation, he actually had this idea. However, at that time, the hidden danger in the novice village had not been resolved. Although his strength was not weak, it could not be considered very strong. Now, he had swept through the novice village and many players. His own strength had reached the peak of the basic realm in one fell swoop. Qin Shujian believed. He already had the qualifications to extend the hand of Mount Liangshan Stockade into the territory of 50 li. The Lion-Tiger Plain, the Stone Forest, the Endless Mountain Range, the Shining Rebel Army, and the Undying Plain. In Qin Shujian's opinion, the Stone Forest was the best place to start. Because just from the word rebel, one could tell that the Shining Rebel Army was involved in many matters. As for the other places, he did not know much about them. On the contrary, Zhang Tiniu had previously investigated the Stone Forest and collected some information about the bandits, which made him finally decide to start from the Stone Forest first. Food must be eaten one bite at a time. The road must be taken one step at a time. All the players within the territory of his power had been wiped out. Whether it was his overall strength or his individual strength, they had all increased to a limit in a short period of time. Qin Shujian believed that he had gotten off to a good start. This was a trump card. As long as he did not deliberately attack randomly, he was confident that he would not end up with a complete loss. As for his initial wish, Qin Shujian had seen it come true step by step with his own eyes. As long as he always walked in front of the players, then he would never have to worry about the players threatening him. And to achieve this, besides the bug-like increase in vitality, he had to rely on the many bandits of Mount Liangshan stockade to harvest a large amount of vitality for him. Chapter 35. Loyalty Hall. This time, only Qin Shujian and Zheng Fong were present. Advisor, you've been at Cold Mountain Stronghold for a while now. What do you think of Cold Mountain Stronghold? Qin Shujian asked casually. Zheng Fong's expression turned serious. He cupped his hands and replied, Stronghold Master is extremely powerful. Under Master's leadership, Cold Mountain Stronghold will definitely become even more powerful than before. Speaking of which, I think Advisor's cultivation method seems to be unique. Is it a family technique? To tell you the truth, when I was young, I was an outer sect disciple of a sect. Unfortunately, I was not talented enough. As I grew older, I simply left the sect and settled down in Linchuan village. I thought that this would be the end of my life. Who would have thought that there would be a famine and a military disaster? At the end, Zheng Fong shook his head helplessly. Sect? Qin Shujian accurately captured a word in the other party's words. As if he could see Qin Shujian's confusion, Zheng Fong organized his thoughts and explained. Within the borders of the Dazhao nation, there are many powers and sections. As for the sects, they were forces formed by a group of transcendental experts. Any sect would have many terrifying experts. A person like me, who is only at the 4th or 5th layer of the basic martial realm, can only be considered at the bottom of the hierarchy. Then do you know what is the realm after the basic martial realm? I don't know. Zheng Fong shook his head and said, with my experience, I don't have the qualifications to know what is after the basic martial realm. However, it is said that after breaking through the 10th layer of the basic martial realm, there will be a terrifying transformation. However, I don't know the specifics. At this point, Zheng Fong laughed at himself. Unfortunately, I have only learned the most common eternal spring arts in the sect. The limit of this cultivation method is the 5th layer of the basic martial realm. If there are no accidents, I probably won't have the opportunity to see the mysteries after the basic martial realm. On the other hand, Stronghold Master has already reached such a realm at such a young age. There is hope for him to break through this limit. Hearing this, Qin Shujian did not immediately respond. In his short conversation with Zheng Fong, he had obtained a lot of information. At first, he thought, if other NPCs wanted to level up, they only needed to kill players. However, Feng later discovered that they needed to kill players who were at least 3 minor realms lower than themselves to level up. However, after hearing Zheng Fong's words, Qin Shujian realized that the other NPCs would have to face another obstacle if they wanted to level up. That was cultivation method. In fact, Qin Shujian had also discovered something about this problem. That was, before he could raise his cultivation level, he had to first raise his main cultivation technique, and then raise his cultivation level. However, other NPCs did not have the ability to deduce life sources. This also meant that, for example, the body tempering scripture and the eternal spring art, the 5th layer was the limit. Those who practiced these techniques would only be able to advance to the corresponding realm. If he wanted to break through this shackle, he would need to obtain a higher level of cultivation technique. Although he didn't really ask Zheng Fong about this, Qin Shujian deduced it from a few words, but he was very sure that his guess wasn't wrong. Just like that, Qin Shujian also realized how powerful his ability to increase his cultivation technique with life sources was. As long as he had enough life sources, he didn't have any shackles. After the 5th layer of the basic martial realm, or even after the basic martial realm, none of them would stop him from moving forward. The prerequisite for all of this was having enough life sources. Military advisor, how much do you know about the current situation of the world? What is the famine that military advisor mentioned before? Sigh, in the past 3 months, there hasn't been a single drop of rain. and there hasn't been a single harvest. It's said that the 13 prefectures of the Great Zhao country have all been affected by the famine, and the various feudal lords have risen. The people have no way to make a living. Zhang Feng bitterly smiled, shook his head, and sighed. On one side, there hasn't been a single harvest due to the drought, and on the other side, there hasn't been any reduction in taxes. In addition, when the feudal lords rise, there will be war, and the deserters will kill and steal food. This is how the famine came to be. Luckily, Mount Liang is far away, or else it would have been affected. Hearing this, Qin Shujian asked a few more questions. Zhang Feng also answered them one by one. At this point, Qin Shujian finally had a preliminary understanding of this world. The land under his feet was the territory of the Great Zhao country. The Great Zhao country has 13 prefectures, and it occupies more than hundreds of millions of territories. And the Linchuan market that Zhang Feng was in, as well as the current Mount Liang, strictly speaking, belong to the Baiyun prefecture, one of the 13 prefectures of the Great Zhao country. As for the problem of the feudal lords rising, even if he didn't ask Zhang Feng, Qin Shujian would know a thing or two. After all, before coming to this world, in the ancient times of his original world, every time there was a drought or famine, there would always be some restless people who would try to take advantage of the situation to overthrow the system. It seems that no matter which world it is, there is no lack of such people. Qin Shujian secretly shook his head. Afterwards, the two of them chatted for a long time before Zhang Feng got up and left. In the next few days, Qin Shujian sorted out the body-forging scripture that he had deduced, and finally wrote down all the contents of the body-forging scripture before the 8th layer. Immediately after, he imparted the contents of the first 8 layers of the body-forging scripture to Zhang Feng. Then, he imparted the contents of the first 6 layers of the body-forging scripture to Zhao Shanlin and the other leaders. As for the ordinary bandits, he didn't impart it to them, because those who can become leaders are at least experts of the 4th layer of the basic martial realm, and the 5th layer of the body-forging scripture is basically the end. Therefore, Qin Shujian imparted the body-forging scripture level by level according to this standard. In this way, it will also motivate the other bandits to desperately increase their strength in order to obtain a higher level of the body-forging scripture. As for Zhang Feng, when he obtained the 8th layer of the body-forging scripture, this old man who has been in the sect and has seen the world can't help but be shocked. No one knows better than him. How precious is a cultivation scripture that has surpassed the 5th layer of the basic martial realm? The reason why Qin Shujian did this is to increase the overall strength of the Mount Liang stronghold as much as possible. Through his conversation with Zhang Feng and his understanding of this world, he also knows that it is very difficult to establish a foothold in this world by relying on one person's strength. However, Qin Shujian also has a trick up his sleeve. He has deduced up to the 9th layer of the body-forging scripture, but only imparted the first 8 layers. When he has deduced the 10th layer, or even the higher levels, he will then impart the rest of the body-forging scripture. In this way, as a result, some unnecessary problems that shouldn't have arisen were avoided. Not long after, Zhang Tiniu and Wang Taizhu also returned with a few bandits to report. Qin Shujian immediately imparted the contents of the first 8 layers of the body-forging scripture to the two of them. At the same time, he also obtained the information he wanted from the two of them. 1. Information about the stone forest. Chapter 36. Within the Hall of Loyalty. Qin Shujian sat at the head of the table. He looked at the two people below him and asked, "How is the situation in the stone forest?" "Players are wreaking havoc in the stone forest. The current situation is a mess." "Players wreaking havoc?" Qin Shujian squinted his eyes. Zhang Tiniu nodded. "That's right. There are also player villages in the stone forest. The number of players isn't less than the number of players in the novice village, 10021, that we destroyed. Moreover, these players are increasing their strength very quickly. Originally, the 3 bandit groups in the stone forest each occupied one area. Now, under the threat of the players, they are gradually working together to resist the invasion of the players." At the mention of the word inhuman, his expression turned solemn. Luckily, as the Cold Mountain stronghold became a first-class faction, His cultivation also increased to the 4th stage of the martial arts. Or else, this time, entering the stone forest was a perilous situation. Hearing this, Qin Shujian wasn't surprised. The speed at which players increased their strength was definitely not something that these NPCs could compare to. Moreover, with the character of the players, once their strength increased to a certain level, the bandits in the stone forest would definitely be uprooted. Even if the 3 bandit groups were working together, they would already feel the threat of the players. Unfortunately, from Zhang Tiniu's words, these bandits still didn't understand the players at all. Players were like a centipede that didn't fall down even if it died. Moreover, their growth speed was shocking. When the bandits chose to work together to resist, they had already lost. To truly suppress the players, they had to use the power of thunder and completely destroy the players before they rose up. Otherwise, sooner or later, they would be bitten back. If Qin Shujian was still considering making a move on the stone forest before, he would have thought about it. But now, after hearing Zhang Tinia's words, he didn't hesitate at all. He had to attack. Although the players were only wreaking havoc in the stone forest, but the stone forest was only a short distance away from the Liang Mountain boundary. With the players' adventurous spirit, it wouldn't be long before they reached their hands into the Liang Mountain boundary. Rather than passively taking a beating at that time, it was better to take the initiative to attack now. The more he thought about it, the more Qin Shujian felt that it made sense. Therefore, he immediately asked, "How strong are those 3 groups of bandits? Are there any experts above the 6th stage of the basic realm?" According to my understanding, the strongest of the 3 bandit groups was only at the 5th stage of the basic realm. But now that the mutants are wreaking havoc, we can't rule out the possibility that they have advanced to the next stage. However, according to my estimation, the 6th stage of the basic realm should be the highest. The possibility of going any higher is next to nothing. Killing inhumans to level up, but there was a limit to it. If one wanted to advance to the 6th level of the basic realm, they would need to be at least at the 3rd level of the basic realm. This was undoubtedly an extremely high request. 6th stage of the basic realm? Hearing this, Qin Shujian pondered for a moment, then ordered, "Send a letter to the bandits in the stone forest." He did not think of himself as a cruel person, even though they had already made preparations to attack the stone forest. However, Qin Shujian still did not want to make a move on these bandits unless it was absolutely necessary. After all, everyone was a member of the forest. Now that he had become an NPC, everyone could be considered to be of the same race. Qin Shujian felt that he could not easily slaughter his own race. Soon after, Qin Shujian wrote 3 letters, one for each bandit group, and directly handed them to Zhang Tiniu. He believed, when the bandits in the stone forest saw these letters, they would definitely feel his strong sincerity. After finishing this matter, Qin Shujian immediately gathered the bandits in the Cold Mountain stronghold. Those bandits only had 1 day. Even though he thought that the probability of them refusing was not high, he still had to prepare in advance. As long as there were any problems, then he would immediately lead people to sweep through the stone forest. On the other side, after receiving Qin Shujian's order, Zhang Tiniu took the 3 letters and headed straight for the stone forest. From the Cold Mountain to the boundary of the stone forest, there was only a distance of 20 li. With the speed of the 4th stage of the basic realm, it would not take too much time. However, the boundary of the stone forest was much larger than the boundary of the Cold Mountain. It was as vast as 2 or 3 times the boundary of the Cold Mountain. Although the forces of the 3 groups of bandits were not spread too far apart, but they were not close to each other. Therefore, Zhang Tiniu used a total of 6 hours to deliver the 3 letters. And when these letters were delivered to the bandits, he immediately turned around and left. He did not stay for even a second. He did not read the contents of the letters. But his premonition made Zhang Tiniu not dare to stay for too long. If there was any bad news in the letters, then with his 4th stage of the basic realm, if he fell into a bandit's lair, he might not have the chance to come out. When Zhang Tiniu did not go far, an angry voice came from one of the strongholds. "You've gone too far." Niu Feng's face turned red. His broad hand directly crushed a white paper. His bell-like eyes were full of anger, as if they would spew out at any time. He had naturally heard of the name of the Cold Mountain stronghold. After all, the two territories bordered each other. Even if he had no contact with them, he should still know about them. In Niu Feng's opinion, the boundary of the Cold Mountain and the Stone Forest did not interfere with each other. Therefore, when a bandit from the Cold Mountain stronghold came to deliver the letter, he was relatively polite and did not have the intention to make things difficult for the other party. But now, Niu Feng only hated himself for not keeping the person who delivered the letter and then cutting him into 8 pieces. I am the chief of the Cold Mountain stronghold, Qin Shujian. I have heard of the name of the Stone Forest and could not help but yearn for it. This was the beginning of the letter. It seemed quite normal. But what really made Niu Feng furious was the following content. I heard that the Stone Forest is currently being ravaged by mutants. The Cold Mountain stronghold is willing to help wipe out the mutant disaster. However, as a reward, the Ming'ai Mountain must be incorporated into the Cold Mountain stronghold. I will give you 1 day to consider. If you refuse, then the Cold Mountain stronghold will sweep away all obstacles. The meaning behind the words was obvious. Niu Feng could only see a hint of provocation. The Ming'ai Mountain stronghold had dominated the Stone Forest for more than 10 years. As the chief of the Ming'ai Mountain stronghold, no one had ever dared to be so unscrupulous in front of him, to the point of openly threatening him. The harassment of the mutants during this period of time made Niu Feng unwilling to divert too much of his attention. He would now use all the strength of the mountain to directly declare war on the Cold Mountain stronghold. As for the time mentioned in the letter, Niu Feng did not care at all. This mountain stronghold wants to see what kind of ability a small Cold Mountain stronghold has to dare to talk nonsense about wiping out my Ming'ai Mountain. Niu Feng's expression was ice-cold as he spoke word by word. However, after his anger, he also became clear-headed. The Cold Mountain stronghold's actions seemed to be directed at the Ming'ai Mountain, but if exaggerated, it was directed at the entire Stone Forest. Before he completely understood the other party's background, Niu Feng was not prepared to shoulder everything by himself. The Stone Forest is not just the Ming'ai Mountain. Chapter 37. Qin Shujian felt a bit melancholy, because after sending out the letter for a whole day, he still hadn't received a reply from the bandits of Stone Forest. Logically speaking, this shouldn't have happened. He thought that the contents of his letter could be considered sincere. Any person or NPC who could see the big picture would agree to it. Bandits will always be bandits. Can't they see the big picture? Qin Shujian secretly shook his head. I originally wanted to work together for a win-win situation, but it seems like there's no chance. Seeing that a day had passed, he immediately left his room. Outside, Zheng Fang and a group of elite leaders had been waiting there for a long time. Qin Shujian said in a deep voice. This time, Stone Forest refused to declare their position. Their malice towards our Cold Mountain stronghold is obvious. Instead of passively taking a beating, we should take the initiative to attack. We'll follow Master's orders. Zheng Fang was the first to declare his position. Zhang Tiniu and Wang Taizhu weren't far behind. Seeing this, Qin Shujian was very satisfied. After moistening his throat, he continued, Currently, there are 3 groups of bandits entrenched in Stone Forest. They are Ming'ai Mountain, Chuanyan Stronghold, and Mountain of Chaos. In addition, there are also mutant villages in Stone Forest boundary. Therefore, this time, in addition to Ming'ai Mountain and the other bandits, we also need to deal with the mutants. Speaking of this, Qin Shujian paused. This time, you'll mainly deal with the mutants. As for the other bandits, I'll personally visit them. Master, isn't this a bit too risky? Zheng Fang asked hesitantly. Although he didn't know how strong Qin Shujian was, going alone into a group of bandits, there was a lot of risk involved. I'm confident. Qin Shujian didn't comment. He waved his hand and said, According to his estimation, the bandits of a single group were at most a bit stronger than Wu Sheng's Cold Mountain stronghold. 5th stage of the basic martial realm and 6th stage of the basic martial realm were about the limit. Of course, within their own area of influence. Perhaps the strength of these bandits would increase to a certain extent. However, no matter how much he increased his strength, Qin Shujian did not believe that his opponent could reach the 9th stage of the martial realm. Furthermore, with his current strength, even if he was no match for them, retreating wouldn't be a problem. Seeing Zheng Fang and the others leave, Qin Shujian couldn't help but think of the situation in the stone forest. 3 groups of bandits. If there were no surprises, they should all have a core token of a force. For example, the Liangshan Stronghold Master token that Wu Shang had dropped. Another example would be the core token that was dropped from Novice Village, 10021. These tokens directly represented a certain force and were the true core of the force. A Novice Village's core token was enough for Cold Mountain Stronghold to be promoted to a first-class faction. If we want to be promoted to level 2, level 3, or even higher, we'll need even more tokens. Qin Shujian thought to himself. Cold Mountain Village, a first-class power, was already at the 3rd stage of the basic realm. If it was a second-class faction, perhaps even the weakest bandit would become an expert of the 5th stage of the basic realm. The only thing that Qin Shujian felt regretful was that there were still too few bandits in Cold Mountain Stronghold. All in all, there were only about 130 people. Compared to a novice village that had tens of thousands of players, this was still a stretch. Furthermore, who knew how many novice villages there were in this world? Qin Shujian could only judge based on his knowledge of the population in his previous life, as well as the proportion of players in some popular games. He was afraid that the number of players that came here was at least in the tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions. More than 100 bandits, compared to hundreds of millions of players. Even if Qin Shujian used his but to think, he knew what the result would be. Even if it was impossible for all the players in the world to only target Cold Mountain Stronghold, he still felt that it was necessary to prepare for a rainy day. Snatch the source of life. Promote the level of the faction. Recruit more bandits. These were the 3 goals that Qin Shujian sorted out for himself. He ranked them in order of importance. The source of life was definitely the first. Only with enough source of life would he be strong enough. It was also the foundation to complete the last 2 goals. Recently, the bandits have been wreaking havoc in the village. If young hero can help the people get rid of the evil, I will definitely reward you greatly. In Novice Village 23012, Lu Qinghong was talking to the village guard captain. When he saw the system prompt, Lu Qinghong silently chose to accept, then smiled and said, "The bandits are wreaking havoc in the village. As a member of Novice Village 23012, I naturally won't stand by and do nothing. Then I'll wait for your good news." Okay. Lu Qinghong nodded, then said goodbye to the guard captain. Then, more than a dozen players suddenly surrounded him. "Brother Lu, how was it? Did you receive the mission?" "Yes, I received it." Lu Qinghong directly shared the mission with the team. A player named Zhang Quan smiled and said, "Brother Lu is indeed amazing. The guard captain has players talking to him every day, but in the end, not many of them were able to trigger the mission. The other players couldn't trigger the mission probably because they didn't meet the requirements." Lu Qinghong always had a faint smile on his face. However, when he looked at the mission, his heart was heavy. Eliminate 50 bandits. Every bandit, even the most ordinary one, was at the first stage of the martial arts realm. If they were unlucky, they might encounter even more powerful ones. 50 bandits wasn't a small number. Even a player at the 3rd or 4th stage of the martial arts realm wouldn't have the confidence to complete this mission alone. However, the higher the difficulty of the mission, the more generous the reward would be after completion. Looking at the sky, Lu Qinghong said, "The difficulty of this mission isn't small. I'll give everyone an hour to prepare and resupply. After an hour, we'll meet at the entrance of the village." Okay. The other players didn't object to Lu Qinghong's words. Then, the dozen or so players dispersed. Only Lu Qinghong and a girl with a bit of baby fat were left. "Brother, what's the reward for this mission?" Lu Qingqing blinked her eyes and tilted her head with a curious expression. Lu Qinghong shook his head and said, "The mission didn't give a specific reward, but I estimate that the value won't be low. With only an hour, what else do you need to prepare?" "With you here, I don't need to prepare anything." Lu Qingqing giggled and hugged Lu Qinghong's arm. Seeing this, Lu Qinghong helplessly shook his head. His eyes were filled with affection. However, it was just as Lu Qingqing said. With his current fourth stage of the martial arts realm and with the help of the other members of the team, it wasn't a big problem to wipe out 50 bandits. Whether or not Lu Qingqing could be of use didn't matter much. An hour passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Qinghong and Zhang Quan were already waiting at the entrance of the village. Not long after, the other players in the team arrived one after another. Lu Qinghong looked at the team and said in a deep voice, "Let's go." Chapter 38. A group of 10 or so people walked on a small, secluded path. From the mission, our target this time is the bandits of Mt Min Gai, Lu Qinghong said as he walked at the front. Zhang Quan said, Mt Min Gai is the lair of the bandits. It's like a dungeon in the game we played before. I'm afraid that we won't just encounter ordinary bandits this time. It's very likely that we'll encounter the boss of Mt Min Gai. Bah. This was a very eye-catching term in any game. Another skinny youth in the group said, with Brother Lu's strength of the 4th stage of the new martial realm and close to the 5th stage of the new martial realm, as well as our average strength of not lower than the 3rd stage of the new martial realm, Brother Lu's strength is comparable to the 4th stage of the new martial realm. Even if we encounter a boss of the 5th stage of the martial arts, we won't be completely helpless. However, he paused for a moment before continuing. This game's level division is different from previous games. The difference between each level is quite big. The 5th stage of the martial arts is fine, but if it's a boss of the 6th stage of the martial arts, it'll be a bit troublesome. Zhang Quan said with disdain, Chen Wu, you're underestimating Brother Lu and us. Any team needs to have the ability to fight a boss above their level. It's fine if we don't encounter the boss of Mt Min Gai, but if we do, we'll kill it together. Immediately, the other people in the group also started to discuss as they walked. Only Lu Qinghong didn't participate in the discussion. However, from his calm expression, it seemed that he agreed with Zhang Quan's words. After the others finished discussing, Lu Qinghong said, Mt Min Gai is one of the biggest bandit forces in this area. There are many elite NPCs and high-level bosses. Our mission this time is only to kill 50 bandits, but there's no level requirement. In order to avoid accidents, we'll first complete the mission of killing 50 bandits. If we encounter the boss of Mt Min Gai, we'll clear the dungeon if we can defeat it. If we can't defeat it, we won't be able to defeat it. Lu Qinghong's words. The others agreed with him. After all, the most important thing now was to complete the mission. However, if they had the chance to kill a boss, that would be even better. After all, a boss was a boss not only because of its strength, but also because it could drop precious items. After entering the game for so long, they hadn't heard of any players killing a boss in the novice village. From this, it could be seen. The boss in this game was extremely difficult to kill. However, it could also be deduced that a difficult boss would definitely be accompanied by a rich harvest. This is Min Gai Mountain? At the foot of the mountain, Qin Shujian raised his head and looked up. All he could see was lush greenery. The greening of Mount Min Gai is pretty good. It's much better than that godforsaken place of Mount Liang. It seems like I have to supervise those bandits when I go back this time. It would be more comfortable to look at the greening. When he saw Min Gai Shan, he couldn't help but compare it to Liang Shan. No, I don't know. His heart turned cold at the thought of that. Although they hadn't actually set foot on Mt Min Gai, Cold Mountain Stockade had already lost half of the battle on the surface. However, Qin Shujian withdrew his gaze after a short while. Then, he followed a winding path in front of him and headed towards Mount Min Gai. Stop! Who are you? Before Qin Shujian could get far, 2 bandits wielding large swords blocked his path. Looking at the familiar attire of these bandits, Qin Shujian recalled the time when he was an ordinary bandit. I am the chief of Cold Mountain Stockade. Please go ahead and report. In order to maintain his image, Qin Shujian cupped his hands and said politely. The 2 bandits looked a little confused. One of the skinny bandits shook his head and said, without the boss's orders, you can't go up the mountain, so there's no room for discussion? Without the boss's orders, you can't go up the mountain. The bandits repeated the same sentence. Qin Shujian took a deep breath. he suddenly realized that he was a little retarded. He knew that these bandits were similar to the Cold Mountain Stockade bandits from before. They were all idiots with no intelligence. Yet, he still wasted his saliva to communicate with them. After figuring out this point, Qin Shujian was too lazy to talk nonsense. He directly walked up the mountain. When the two bandits saw this, they wanted to cut him down. However, before they could bring their sabers down, their bodies had already been sent flying, knocking down two trees. Before they hit the ground, they were already dead. In front of Qin Shujian, two bandits in the first layer of the basic martial realm were as difficult as swatting two flies. As for whether or not the collapse of the trees would attract the attention of the bandits of Ming'ai Mountain, it was not within his consideration, since he had already made his move. There was no possibility of a peaceful ending. After casually killing the two bandits, Qin Shujian continued walking up the mountain. Not long after, two sentry posts appeared in front of him. Similarly, the bandits patrolling the sentry posts also noticed Qin Shujian. Suddenly, more than 10 bandits appeared in front of him. However, this time, Qin Shujian did not waste his breath. He immediately used the 5 elements 8 trigram steps. His body moved like a phantom as he continuously used the 7 leaves flower-piercing palm. The bandits were all sent flying. They left the territory of Cold Mountain. Qin Shujian was a true expert in the 9th layer of the basic martial realm. Moreover, he was not only in the 9th layer of the basic martial realm. After achieving the characteristic of bone marrow abundance, Qin Shujian's strength underwent a terrifying transformation. Every punch and palm contained a terrifying force of several thousand pounds. Not to mention ordinary bandits, even an expert in the 5th layer of the basic martial realm would definitely suffer from broken bones and fall to the ground and die. In just a short 3 seconds, all 13 bandits were killed. The 2 sentry posts were also shaken by the aftershock. They directly collapsed, crushing the surrounding trees. In the meeting room, Niu Feng was lying on his tiger skin chair and taking a nap. As the bandit leader of Ming'ai Mountain, unless he went out to rob, he was usually very free. At this moment, the loud noise that came from outside startled Niu Feng awake. As a bandit leader, he lived a life of bloodshed all year round. He had a keen intuition for unknown dangers, even if he did not think that anyone would dare to cause trouble in Ming'ai Mountain. However, as soon as he woke up, Niu Feng directly stood up and picked up the 9-ringed broadsword in front of the chair. Then, he walked out of the meeting room with the broadsword. What happened? The 2 bandits who were standing guard in front of the meeting hall were questioned. One of the bandits said with a trembling voice, "Leader, it seems that someone broke into our stronghold." Hearing this, Niu Feng was furious. "Who dares to break into my Ming'ai Mountain? Do you want to die?" As soon as he finished speaking, another series of earth-shattering noises rang out. Under the gaze of Niu Feng and the 2 bandits, a few wooden buildings seemed to have been damaged and directly collapsed. Chapter 39. A bandit was sent flying and fell to the ground, spitting out blood. Qin Shujian slowly retracted his hand, but he didn't stop walking. There were already many corpses lying around. Those who had died earlier had already disappeared. Those who were still lying here had died not long ago, and their corpses were still warm. As Qin Shujian approached step by step, the remaining bandits retreated step by step. Their hands holding their swords couldn't help but tremble slightly. There was no other way. Having a low IQ didn't mean that they weren't afraid of death. The person in front of them was terrifyingly powerful. None of their brothers were able to withstand a single blow from him. Those who rushed up were now lying on the ground. "Who dares to cause trouble in my Ming'ai Mountain?" A roar startled the birds. A black shadow covered the ground, and then a burly body fell heavily on the ground. In a split second, the ground seemed to shake slightly. "Leader." Seeing the person who came, the other bandits seemed to have seen their backbone. Their originally fearful hearts also calmed down a little. In the eyes of these bandits, Niu Feng was the strongest person. Chi and blood at the peak? Still a little short. Looking at Niu Feng who came over, Qin Shujian squinted his eyes slightly. Even if he couldn't see through Niu Feng's attributes, he could feel Niu Feng's surging chi and blood. However, Although Niu Feng's qi and blood were surging, there was still a gap between them and the peak. According to his estimation, the person who came should be at the peak of the 5th stage of the martial arts realm, but not at the 6th stage of the martial arts realm, but now with the support of the Force. In terms of realm, he should be equivalent to a pseudo-6th stage of the martial arts realm. As for the person's identity, naturally, it was obvious. The master of Mingai Mountain. Qin Shujian was sizing up Niu Feng, and Niu Feng also saw Qin Shujian in the field. When he saw the other party for the first time, it was as if the person standing in front of him wasn't a person, but a terrifying beast. That kind of ferocious pressure actually made his hair stand on end involuntarily. This feeling. Only when he encountered a terrifying threat would it be like this. An expert that he absolutely could not contend against. While Niu Feng was shocked, the fierce expression on his face suddenly changed. He tried his best to squeeze out an ugly smile. I am Niu Feng, the master of Mingai Mountain. I have yet to ask for your name. As for why he killed his subordinates, Niu Feng didn't even want to talk about it. I am Qin Shujian, the chief of Cold Mountain Stronghold. Looking at the uneasy Niu Feng, Qin Shujian said with a smile. Oh, so it's Liang Mountain. Just as Niu Feng was about to salute, he suddenly stopped. He looked at Qin Shujian as if he was looking at a ghost. He had never heard of the name Qin Shujian before. However, the words Cold Mountain Stronghold Master were very familiar to him. Niu Feng's heart sank when he recalled the contents of the letter that Cold Mountain Stockade had delivered to him yesterday, which he had crumpled into a pulp. Qin Shujian noticed Niu Feng's reaction. I think Leader Niu already knows why I'm here. Haha. Niu Feng was at a loss for words. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. If he pretended to be confused, he would easily anger the other party. With that terrifying aura, if they really fought, it was still unknown whether Mingai Mountain's entire strength could be a match for him. However, he wasn't willing to submit to them. Even if Qin Shujian didn't know what was going on in Niu Feng's mind, he could guess a thing or two. However, he didn't have much time to talk nonsense with Niu Feng. Therefore, he went straight to the point. I'll give Leader Niu 15 minutes to think about it. If you're willing to merge Mingai Mountain into Cold Mountain Stronghold, then we'll be family in the future. If Leader Niu is not willing, in that case, I would like to see if Mingai Mountain has the ability to refuse. Hearing this, Niu Feng's heart sank. Qin Shujian's words had forced him into a dead end. He could either submit or resist to the end. There was no third choice. Niu Feng was used to being the king of the mountain. He was naturally unwilling to submit to someone else and have another person above him. However, when he looked at Qin Shujian again, he felt the pressure of the aura that made his heart tremble. The courage that Niu Feng had worked hard to summon in his heart also dissipated a lot. Submit or not submit? Niu Feng felt that this was a serious problem. His coarse face kept changing, and there was a strong sense of struggle in his eyes. Qin Shujian, on the other hand, stood calmly to the side. However, under his calm eyes, there was a lingering coldness that couldn't be removed. He was giving Niu Feng one last chance. If Niu Feng still didn't know what was good for him, then after today, there would be no more Mingai Mountain bandits in the stone forest. Time passed little by little. 15 minutes have passed. It seems that Mingai Mountain is going to resist to the end. Qin Shujian's hand was already on the hilt of the saber on his back. Suddenly, his aura became restless like a gale. A black tiger as tall as several people seemed to be looming above his head. This sudden change made Niu Feng's soul leave his body. Hold on, Fort Master Qin, hold on. Do you have anything else to say? Qin Shujian was expressionless, but the aura on his body was boiling. Niu Feng looked at the saber that was slowly being unsheathed. He seemed to be able to hear the roar of a tiger. His heart suddenly thumped wildly, and he hurriedly said, Mingai Mountain is willing to submit? Niu Feng, the fort master of Mingai Mountain, wants to submit to you. Do you agree? Have you thought it through? Qin Shujian didn't immediately agree. Instead, he asked a question in return. Niu Feng lowered his head and said sincerely, I've always heard of Fort Master Qin's fame. I've been fascinated by it for a long time. It's our fortune that Mingai Mountain can be incorporated into Cold Mountain Fort. Good. From today onwards, you are the elite leader of my Cold Mountain Fort. The rest of the bandits will be incorporated into my Cold Mountain Fort. The terrifying aura suddenly dissipated. Qin Shujian's indifferent face also revealed a harmonious smile. Mingai Mountain has been incorporated into Cold Mountain Fort. Because Niu Feng voluntarily submitted, Mingai Mountain has automatically been incorporated into Cold Mountain Fort. Because the promotion requirements are not met, Cold Mountain Fort is still a first-class force. You've received 234 taels of silver. You've received 300 points of life force. 53 bandits have been incorporated into Cold Mountain Fort. Their identities have automatically changed to bandits. The system's information appeared in a timely manner. When Qin Shujian looked at Niu Feng again, his attributes appeared in front of his eyes. Name, Niu Feng. Identity, Elite Leader Affiliation, Cold Mountain Fort Realm, 5th tier of the basic realm rank, 1st tier cultivation method, Boulder Art, Perfection, Mountain Cleaving Saber Art, Perfection. There were no surprises. Just as he thought, Niu Feng was an expert of the 5th tier of the basic realm. After seeing that Niu Feng's Boulder Art had reached perfection, Qin Shujian also understood why Niu Feng hadn't broken through to the next stage, even though he had clearly reached the peak of the 5th tier of the basic realm. In the end, it was still the limitation of the cultivation method. Obviously, the Boulder Art was the same as the Body Forging Scripture and the Eternal Spring Art. The 5th tier was the perfection. It lacked the 6th tier to temper one's blood and qi in blood to reach its peak. Chapter 40. After looking at Niu Feng's attributes, Qin Shujian then looked at the other bandits. They should be bandits now, except for the change in identity. These bandits' realms didn't change. They didn't reach the 3rd level of the martial arts realm after joining the Cold Mountain Stronghold. Seeing this, Qin Shujian wasn't too surprised. When he subdued the Mingai Mountain, he got the relevant information. Only those who belonged to the same faction before the faction leveled up could get benefits when the faction leveled up. As for those who joined after leveling up, they wouldn't get such benefits. However, because the first-class faction was there, as long as the bandits who joined the Cold Mountain Stronghold didn't exceed the 3rd level of the martial arts realm, they wouldn't drop their realms even if they died at the hands of players. After that, Niu Feng arranged for a few of the original leaders of the Mingai Mountain to take care of the follow-up matters and then invited Qin Shujian into the meeting hall. The meeting hall wasn't big. However, compared to Wu Shang's Hall of Loyalty, it was still a grade better. After entering, Niu Feng tactfully sat down on the seat of honor. As for his original seat of honor, it was left for Qin Shujian. He sat down on the tiger skin seat, and the comfortable touch instantly made him nod his head. In the Cold Mountain Stronghold, his seat was also cushioned with something. But that was just an ordinary animal skin. It was a grade lower than this tiger skin. Perhaps I should also improve my living environment. For no reason, Qin Shujian had an idea in his mind. But as soon as it appeared, he suppressed it. Now, it wasn't the time to think about this. Only when he was warm and full could he think about that. Now Qin Shujian felt that he couldn't even eat in peace. How could he have the time to think about other things? After sitting down, Qin Shujian looked at the submissive Niu Feng and asked, "How much do you know about the Chuanyan Stronghold and the Mountain of Chaos?" Hearing this, Niu Feng was startled at first. Then he immediately replied, replying to Stockade Master, Chuanyan Stockade's strength is about the same as Mingai Mountain's. The head of Chuanyan Stockade is called Su Yuanming. He is also around the 5th stage of the basic realm and specializes in the cloud-piercing sword technique. The strength of the chaotic Gold Mountain is a bit stronger than our two families. Their leader is called Zhang Hong. On the surface, he is an expert of the 5th stage of the basic realm and is skilled in the 100 battle saber technique. However, I have always suspected that Zhang Hong's strength is not that simple. Someone once guessed that he might have already broken through the limits of the 5th stage of the basic realm. Qin Shujian simply asked. Niu Feng immediately sold out the other two clans. Regarding this, he did not feel the slightest bit of guilt. Although they were all bandits of the Stone Chaos Forest, they had never gotten along well with each other. There would often be friction between the three parties. It was only because they were wary of each other's strength that they did not truly make a move. At this moment, Niu Feng believed that he had joined the Cold Mountain stronghold and had completely left the camp of the Stone Chaos Forest. When he thought of the fact that his Mingai Mountain was gone just like that, he couldn't help but sigh. As for the other two clans, they still wanted to be free and unfettered. His heart was filled with resentment. Niu Feng was very clear. With the unfathomable strength of the Cold Mountain stronghold master in front of him, even Zheng Hong would not be a match for him. As long as the Cold Mountain stronghold intended to make a move against the other two clans, then the Chuan Cloud stronghold and the Chaotic Gold Mountain would have absolutely no chance of escaping. Qin Shujian did not bother to guess Niu Feng's thoughts. However, as one of the three bandit clans of the Stone Chaos Forest, it was normal for the Mingai Mountain stronghold to have a deep understanding of the other two clans. If we want to make a move, which clan do you think we should start with? As expected, hearing this, Niu Feng secretly said in his heart. Then, he pondered for a moment and said, in my opinion, it would be better to make a move against the Chuan Cloud stronghold. He quickly adapted to the change in his identity. As he spoke, he consciously took on the identity of a subordinate. Hearing this, Qin Shujian curiously asked, why do you say so? The Chuan Cloud stronghold is the closest to the Mingai Mountain stronghold. Moreover, the Chuan Cloud stronghold is relatively weak. It would be easier for us to take down the Chuan Cloud stronghold. Moreover, Su Yuanming is a meticulous person. If we make a move against the Chaotic Gold Mountain first, if he notices something, he may abandon his foundation and retreat in advance. In my opinion, the stronghold master should want to subdue the Chuan Cloud stronghold. If Su Yuanming leaves, it will not be a good thing for the stronghold master. At this point, Niu Feng said again, on the contrary, Zheng Hong is quite arrogant. Even if we take over the Chuan Cloud stronghold, he may not escape without a fight. Moreover, as long as we are fast enough, the Chaotic Gold Mountain stronghold may not be able to get the news. Yes. Qin Shujian nodded slightly. Niu Feng was indeed the stronghold master of Mingai Mountain. His understanding of the other two clans was not comparable to that of the Cold Mountain stronghold. Even if Zheng Feng and the others were to come and investigate, they would not be able to find out such details as the character of a person. Gather the bandits of Mingai Mountain and follow me to the Chuan Cloud stronghold. Yes. Niu Feng nodded in response. Then, he immediately passed down the order. This is Mingai Mountain. Lu Qinghong looked at the tall mountains and dense forest in front of him. The mission prompt also stopped here. Zhang Quan asked, are we going to kill them directly? Be careful. Don't alert too many bandits to avoid being surrounded. Lu Qinghong warned. Then, he took the lead and walked up the mountain along the path. As for the other players, they followed closely behind. Although they did not seem to care about ordinary bandits at first, but when they really arrived at the place, they could not help but feel dignified. There was no other way. This game was too realistic. Looking at the dense forest around them, they were also worried that a few bandits would suddenly jump out from the side. But where are these bandits hiding? After walking for more than 10 minutes, Lu Qingqing was a little impatient. Her baby fat face was puffed up with two cheeks. After such a long time, there were only trees and trees. The path in front of them seemed to have no end. Not to mention bandits, there was not even a shadow of a bandit. Silence. Lu Qinghong scolded in a low voice. Lu Qingqing looked at him with grievance but did not complain anymore. Then, Lu Qinghong seemed to feel that something was not right. He whispered to the others, this place has high mountains and dense forests. We are not familiar with the terrain. It is hard to guarantee that we won't encounter other dangers. This path in front of us has obviously been stepped on for a long time. It should lead directly to the bandit's nest. It won't take too long. After saying that, the team suddenly calmed down. After walking for about 5 minutes, Lu Qinghong and the others stopped. In front of them, a few trees had broken down from the middle. Looking at the traces, it seemed that something had broken them, and beside them, there were scattered and broken sentry buildings. Even if there were no corpses here, but the scene in front of them clearly told them that there had been a battle here. Chapter 41. Could it be that someone was one step ahead of us and killed all the bandits in Mount Mingai? Chunwu couldn't believe it. Hearing that, the other people's faces also changed slightly. Thinking about how they hadn't met a single bandit after walking for so long, it didn't make sense. Now that they heard Chunwu's words, they felt that something was wrong. Lu Qinghong's face darkened as he shook his head. It shouldn't be possible. There shouldn't be such a strong team in the novice village. The team he was in Novice Village 23012, was enough to be ranked in the top 10. Lu Qinghong was at the 4th stage of the martial arts realm and was one of the top players in the Novice Village. He didn't think that he was the only one who received the mission. But to say that a bandit force was wiped out, Lu Qinghong definitely wouldn't believe it. Something must have happened to the bandits in Mount Mingai. Let's go forward and take a look. After taking a careful look at the traces around him, Lu Qinghong immediately walked forward. Seeing this, Zhang Quan and the others immediately followed. As for the team, as Chunwu walked, his eyes couldn't help but glance at the broken tree. The traces that seemed to have been directly broken by violence gave him an illusion of danger. But Lu Qinghong had already made up his mind. The other people in the team didn't say anything. So, he couldn't say too much to avoid making others unhappy. As they went deeper into Mount Mingai, their faces became more and more serious. If what happened before was just a coincidence, then along the way, they saw too many traces of fighting. Except for the lack of corpses on the ground, the other buildings and affected trees were severely damaged. As for the reason why there were no corpses, because corpses would be refreshed. Brother Lu, could it be that a player was one step ahead of us and killed all the bandits in Mount Mingai? Zhang Quan couldn't help but have this question in his heart. Or else, it was hard to explain what was happening in front of them. Lu Qinghong's face was ugly, and he didn't stop walking. Let's continue. After spending so much time to come to Mount Mingai, they had to return empty-handed. This was something that he couldn't accept. For the players in the early stages, every minute and second was worth fighting for. Now that they had wasted almost half a day, it was a big loss. Not to mention, in order to deal with the bandits of Mount Mingai, he had paid a heavy price. Zhang Quan and the others looked at each other, not daring to say anything. Even Lu Qingqing remained silent at this time. She was also afraid of an angry Lu Qinghong. While walking forward, as Lu Qinghong's expression darkened, he couldn't help but feel puzzled. Who is it that has the ability to clear the Mingai Mountain Instance Dungeon? Fu Moyan or Wen Feng? A few names flashed through his mind. These people were the top 10 players in Novice Village 23012. None of them were lower than the 4th stage of the basic realm. There were even a few who had stepped into the 5th stage of the basic realm. But it didn't make sense. After all, if they wanted to clear the Mingai Mountain Dungeon, they would need to mobilize a lot of players. If that was really the case, it was impossible for there to be no news at all. With some guesses in mind, Lu Qinghong and the others continued to ascend. The view that was originally blocked by the dense forest suddenly widened. Brother Lu, look, it's the bandits. Zhang Quan exclaimed excitedly as he pointed to the front. At this moment, he couldn't be bothered to lower his voice. After walking through almost half of Mingai Mountain, they originally thought that the bandits had all been killed. But now that they suddenly saw the bandits, it was enough to make them excited. It wasn't just Zhang Quan. Even Lu Qinghong and the others trembled slightly. Then, they looked in the direction that Zhang Quan was pointing to. They couldn't help but smile. But, before this smile could fully bloom, it suddenly froze. There were bandits in front of them, but there were too many of them. Lu Qinghong and the others roughly looked over. There were at least 40 to 50 bandits gathered there. 2 of them seemed to be the leaders, giving off a strong sense of pressure. Zhang Quan also saw the situation in front of him. The smile on his face gradually froze. These are players? Qin Shujian looked at Lu Qinghong and the others. He was a little confused. He also didn't expect. He had just asked Niu Feng to gather all the bandits in Mingai Mountain and was preparing to attack Xuanyun village together. But then, a group of players suddenly appeared in front of him. Qin Shujian looked at Lu Qinghong and the others. Lu Qinghong and the others were also looking at them. The scene calmed down. Inhumans. An angry voice was heard. Qin Shujian turned his head and saw Niu Feng's angry face. Sensing Qin Shujian's gaze, Niu Feng suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, "Village master, these inhumans often harass Mingai Mountain and killed many of our brothers. Since they are here this time, we can't let them go easily." Seeing this, Qin Shujian also came to a realization. Stone Forest was not like Cold Mountain Village. The players didn't have time to show their power before they were wiped out. Now that the players in Stone Forest were developing well, they were a big threat to Niu Feng and the other NPC natives. Or else, Mingai Mountain, Chuanyun Village, and Mountain of Chaos had the intention to cooperate. But that was before. Now that Mingai Mountain had merged with Cold Mountain Village, there was no need to cooperate with the other two forces. "Brother Lu, what should we do now?" Chen Wu came to Lu Qinghong and asked in a low voice. If there were fewer bandits in front of them, it would be fine. But there were 40 to 50 bandits, and 2 of them looked like bosses. In this way, the difficulty increased by several times. Lu Qinghong secretly took a deep breath and said calmly, "Get ready to retreat." They had to retreat. With so many bandits, they could be wiped out if they were not careful. No one could afford to lose a whole realm. Just as Lu Qinghong and the others were about to find an opportunity to retreat, a series of footsteps came from behind them. Hearing the movement, Lu Qinghong and the others immediately looked back. Fu Moyan, looking at the handsome young man in front of him with a long sword hanging at his waist, Lu Qinghong's gloomy face eased a little. Then, he looked at the 20 or so players behind Fu Moyan. If it was in the past, Lu Qinghong would definitely not have a good expression when he met Fu Moyan. But in the current situation, the arrival of Fu Moyan and the others gave him a different idea. He noticed others, and others naturally saw him. Fu Moyan smiled and cupped his hands. What a coincidence to meet Brother Lu here. As he spoke, he looked at the bandits of Mingai Mountain, and his eyes couldn't help but become a little serious. Looking at Brother Lu, "Are you also here for these bandits?" Chapter 42. Hearing that, Lu Qinghong nodded and said, "Brother Fu's target should also be the bandits of Mingai Mountain?" "That's right. Although I don't know why these bandits have gathered together, and there are 2 suspected bosses among them, I believe that with Brother Fu's strength, it won't be easy for you to deal with so many monsters." Fu Moyan didn't answer but asked, "What is Brother Lu's mission?" He asked directly. Fu Moyan didn't believe that Lu Qinghong would bring his team here for no reason. After all, Mingai Mountain wasn't a place to come at any time. If he wanted to level up, there were too many places more suitable than the bandits of Mingai Mountain, and the risk was lower. So, the other party must have received some mission to come here. "What is your mission?" Lu Qinghong asked, tacitly agreeing with Fu Moyan's words. "Kill the leader of Mingai Mountain, Niu Feng. My mission is to kill 50 bandits. It seems that our missions don't conflict." Lu Qinghong's eyes flickered, and he smiled faintly. When it came to the difficulty of the mission, the difficulty of Fu Moyan's mission was undoubtedly higher than his by a level. After all, one only needed to kill 50 bandits, and the other needed to kill the bandit boss. And to kill the boss, they had to pass through the ordinary monsters first. Then, Lu Qinghong continued, "For some reason, these mountain bandits have gathered together. Moreover, it seems that there are 2 bosses here. Although Brother Fu's team is strong, it should be troublesome for them to face so many mountain bandits. Our missions don't conflict. Why don't we work together? You help me kill 50 bandits, and I'll help you kill the bandit boss." Okay. The 2 of them reached a consensus in a short time. On the other side, Qin Shujian also saw Fu Moyan's sudden appearance, but it didn't cause too much of a stir in his emotions. More than 10 or 20 players, less than 10 or 20 players. For the current him, these were all unimportant matters. As for Niu Feng, he was about to explode. Lu Qinghong and Fu Moyan didn't lower their voices at all, and Niu Feng heard their words clearly. He was told to kill him in front of his face. This was equivalent to rubbing his face against the ground. Especially with Qin Shujian by his side, Niu Feng felt even more embarrassed. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't dare to act on his own without orders, he would have ordered the other bandits to capture all of these inhumans. "Master, Now that Mount Mingai has been incorporated into Cold Mountain Stronghold, these mutants are clearly looking down on you. I am willing to fight and kill all of these mutants. Niu Feng suppressed his anger and lowered his head to Qin Shujian. Qin Shujian nodded slightly. Go ahead. Yes. After he obtained permission, Niu Feng was instantly overjoyed. Then, he immediately gave the order. Kill all these mutants for me. After saying this, Niu Feng was the first to make his move. His body dashed forward, and the nine-ringed broadsword in his hand slashed down violently. As for the other Mingai mountain bandits, they all wielded their weapons and charged towards Lu Qinghong and the others. Bang! He unsheathed his sword. Fu Moyan held a green steel longsword in his hand. He swung his sword in a backhand motion and charged forward. Bang! The sword and saber collided, and countless sparks burst out. Fu Moyan only felt a huge force surging from the sword, which made his arm tremble slightly. His body also uncontrollably took a few steps back. As expected of the boss of Mount Mingai, he is indeed powerful. Fu Moyan's expression was solemn. After just one exchange, he roughly knew Niu Feng's strength. However, in the next moment, Niu Feng slashed his broadsword again. The extremely sharp wind made Fu Moyan choose to retreat at the first moment instead of taking it head-on. Fu Moyan retreated. Niu Feng closed in step by step. The nine-ringed broadsword was like a lethal weapon, and the frightening broadsword light made people feel a chill in their hearts. He cultivated the mountain-splitting broadsword technique. It was an extremely strong and ferocious broadsword technique. This broadsword technique was all about momentum. The stronger the momentum, the more terrifying the broadsword would be. Fu Moyan's retreat directly gave Niu Feng the upper hand. Under the full power of the mountain-splitting broadsword technique, Niu Feng didn't have the strength to fight back. He only had the strength to parry. On the other side, the other bandits were also fighting with the players. These players obviously came prepared. Faced with the encirclement of so many bandits, they worked together in an orderly manner. While dealing with the bandits' attacks, they tried their best to kill as many bandits as possible. As for Qin Shujian, he didn't make a move from the beginning to the end. He wanted to take this opportunity to see how strong Niu Feng and the others were. Bang! Bang! Broadsword light and sword shadows flew, occasionally accompanied by loud noises. Fu Moyan was forced to retreat, and he was no longer as elegant as before. Lu Qinghong, quickly come and help. At this moment, he didn't care about being polite. After blocking Niu Feng's attack with his sword, he directly shouted, "Coming!" Seeing this, Lu Qinghong directly gave up on killing the bandits and rushed out like an arrow, attacking Niu Feng's back with his palm. Now that there were so many bandits, if Fu Moyan couldn't hold on and the boss who had lost control came over, their originally low chance of winning would become even lower. Therefore, the moment Fu Moyan asked for help, Lu Qinghong directly attacked. Feeling the wind behind him, Niu Feng's body suddenly paused. The broadsword that was attacking Fu Moyan turned around and slashed back. Retreat. Seeing this, Lu Qinghong's body retreated like a willow. The nine-ringed broadsword slashed through the air, and the sharp wind caused his skin to hurt. What a strong boss! Seeing this, Lu Qinghong couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He finally understood why Fu Moyan had to ask for help in such a short time. Just the wind caused by the broadsword was enough to hurt his skin. With such strength, it was definitely not as simple as a normal Stage 5 basic martial realm boss. With Lu Qinghong's help, Fu Moyan finally had the chance to fight. He stabbed forward with his sword, and the sword light was like flowing water, emitting a cold tint. Fu Moyan had paid a hefty price to learn the flowing cloud sword, a mortal grade technique. It was also because of this technique that he was able to secure his position as one of the top players in Novice Village 23012. On the left was Fu Moyan, and on the right was Lu Qinghong. The two of them weren't Niu Feng's match one-on-one, but when they worked together, they were actually on par with Niu Feng. However, whether it was Lu Qinghong or Fu Moyan, they didn't relax at all. Instead, they became more and more serious. A single boss was already this powerful. But there wasn't just one boss here. Thinking of this, The two of them couldn't help but look at Qin Shu Jian, who was standing there motionlessly. They didn't forget the scene of Niu Feng speaking so humbly just now. That, perhaps, was the biggest boss of Ming'ai Mountain. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.